All right, we're here. We are live. I never even got a notification on my phone. My phone never rings, so I'm hoping we're live. Are we live?
Bruh.
What?
I just came back and I
Oh,
was switching my TV on to have both my screens.
yeah.
I did not know Tony and Ziva is streaming in like 4 days.
I didn't know that either. Oh,
I
we're
just
gonna
got a
have to
trailer
watch
that shit on
that.
Roku. I
Oh
was
my
like, what the
God.
fuck?
Is it look good?
It does look good. Tony looks like he's gotten really old and Ziva might eat babies. She has not changed us like at all.
Wow, that's crazy. That I can't wait to see it. All right. Well, life does some more to others than, whatever. Okay, so sup, Siren Squad. So as you guys know from some of my previous streams, that like I came across this information that has really got my brain going. And so I have a couple things on my mind this morning that I really want to talk about. All right. So, first of all, okay, how do I got to be really careful how I bring this up. So, as everybody knows, Subject A had reached out to me and I was going to share a bunch of text messages and I was going to break things down. One of the things said in that was like indicated that I actually think he may have believed I would be a threat. Like there would be malice or something in me that would want to get back. Or, maybe, and I get it when we're unhealthy that we think that when we hurt people are going to hurt us back equally. And that's their goal. It's a very tit for tat thing in life. Somebody hurts you, they're going to fucking show you. I mean, it's just kind of the way the world works. That was one of the first parts of my recovery is learning how to walk away from that. So like that was the first step. So I've been able to let go of things like vengeance for over 20 years. I am not at all concerned about, like going and trying that is not what my whole stream has been about. My stream is not to, shame or belittle or, basically I want to be very clear in this because what we're going to talk about today, my stream has not been anything about trying to, oh God, now I can't see. This is why I don't think I'm dealing with an avoidant because I have to think so carefully on my words that I'm like, just in case, even though,
Yeah.
he's not watching anymore and I have nothing to worry about. I have to be so careful because like, if there's anything I misunderstood, it was because of a lack of communication. So let's just go with that. Okay. And I have accepted that. All right. What I had a problem accepting is the fact that he didn't give a fuck how it affected me. He didn't give a fuck how he hurt me. He sat there and he watched me while I was going through everything at the end of my marriage and was so judgmental of my ex-husband and then hurt me 300 times worse. With lies, I mean, just half-truths, non-communication altogether. I mean, and the whole situation, don't get me wrong. I don't need everybody in chat to tell me how screwed up this is because this is why, it was a very messed up.
It's over.
Yeah, and it's a very messed up situation. I understand that I mean, the fact that the man was married probably adds some complications to this, I'm sure. Okay? But I really had been convinced that he was trapped. I really thought that he was a victim. Okay? Like I had seen enough. And here's the fucking fucked up thing about learning about all of this. And the more that I've gone into it, here's the conclusion that rolled through my head this morning is that when two unhealthy individuals, because I used to be this, just keep in mind, okay, in the beginning of my marriage, like my marriage was toxic for almost 10 years. It was almost a full 10 years of toxicity, really. I mean, sure, there's good moments, there always are, even when you're in a toxic relationship. The thing is, when in that dynamic, I had to accept that I was more of the aggressor. I was more, I don't want to say the problem, but I was. I was reacting to, life behaviors really that weren't healthy. Okay. Because my ex-husband wasn't healthy either. Okay. But I was reacting to his behavior also unhealthily, creating what at times could be some of the most I mean, don't get me wrong. Nothing. He never got physical with me. Unfortunately, I on one occasion really did, and I'm not proud of that. Like I said, I was not healthy in the beginning of my relationship. And but embracing that and learning like all the ways that why I was acting the way I was. This is how I approach things. Subject A seems to think like I'm approaching everything to attack and accuse and make him feel like less of a person. What he doesn't realize is that the whole reason why I started it off with healthy communication tips and went into it the way that I did is because if I was wrong, then whether or not, because I did care, okay? And honestly, I think I have to say that to some extent, I will care. Like there is, nobody walks away from a 17-year friendship of any kind where when you've interacted like family and just turn around and go, yeah, I'm just let it go, walk away. I'm sorry. You don't do that. Okay.
Bye-bye.
It takes time and grief is a process. All right. So I was trying so desperately to hold on because of what I thought my whole entire relationship with this guy was. Okay. Like even before, like when we were completely friend zone and never stepped out of that. Okay. Like all of it now feels like it was fiction. It feels like none of it mattered. Okay. So here's the deal. People will reflect to you what they themselves fear when they feel like they've been attacked or pushed. Okay. So like my ex-husband pointed out, because subject A made a comment like, I have to watch your streams to protect my kids because you know where they go to school. Like what in the world would cause anybody to think I would attack children? Why would somebody think that way? Unless they would possibly do that themselves, which is a super scary fucking thought, okay? But anyways, the meltdown that ensued. And again, if you missed it before, chat, I had come across this thing. I had been sitting for about almost 7 months with no contact. And I was sitting there and I was just like, oh my God, why can't I let this go? Like because it was just so hot and cold all of a sudden. Like nothing made sense to me. And I could have accepted just about anything. Like, I have an immense respect for people in general. I'll never reach out to them ever again because they've indicated they want to be left alone. So they don't have to expect that. It's never going to happen. The biggest reason why I even kept trying to reach out to him before is because he told me he'd never tell me he didn't want to talk to me. Well, now he has. So I guess that's my lesson. If that brings me peace, I'm good with that. Maybe subconsciously, I almost push things to a point where, I didn't have to worry about policing myself anymore. Because if you don't know this, chat, when you're dealing in the throes of trauma, especially with a relationship or toxic relationship trauma, and you're going through it, you can think whatever you want to think, but it is like your emotions and your judgment and everything just kind of it's dysregulated. It goes out the window. You're not thinking clearly. You're governed far more by a state of chaos in your heart than the logic your mind can show you. And it gets cloudy and you don't watch. You stop paying attention. That's why we fall for words instead of watching behaviors. Halfway through all of this, I looked right at him and I said, your actions don't match your words. And that confuses me. It's like even in the midst of the worst chaos in my brain, okay, when I was so deep in the throes of complex trauma, even then, I picked up on this. Don't ignore your gut, okay, chat? Don't ignore your gut. But here's my problem with all of this, okay? I started thinking about it because I started looking into this avoidant personality. And it dawned on me. He thinks I'm a threat. Why providing information? And then it goes further because every single time I would try to bring up something, even in the healthiest manner, it was taken as an attack, as an accusation. So that's what brought me around because here's the thing is that narcissists get defensive and then narcissists will want to get even. Narcissists want to have control. Narcissists want to hurt you. Narcissists, they're like, I have spoken about this before. Narcissists actually have been in multiple cultures believed to be nothing more than demonic possession. Satan has grabbed a hold of these people's soul, and that is why they act that way. They have no empathy. They want to hurt people, and they don't care. And that is the thing that made it so hard for me to accept because I can feel people's energy, and it never felt like that. And I have a hard time believing. I believe that you can snow me with your actions, your words, your lies, even maybe. Okay, maybe, because I knew when there was lies. But when you, like, at a certain point, I just don't I trust my gut with reading people's energy. Okay. That is why at a certain point, it is usually so easy and capable for me to walk away. I had no problem walking away from my own father. I had no problem walking away from my ex-father-in-law. I had I had a problem walking away with my youngest sister-in-law, but that's because she was a child, and I had to accept there was nothing more I could do about it. When you're dealing, and the thing about this, okay, if you've been in a toxic relationship, and there is a huge likelihood that you are stemming from some sort of childhood trauma, because that's what leads us to them primarily. I'm not saying that's the only way you end up in a toxic relationship, because if you've been raised in a happy, healthy, good environment and you come into contact with one of these, you're not even going to believe this shit can exist. You're not even going to believe this shit can happen. You're going to be like so confused, but also not even realizing what is being done to you mentally. But here's the thing. Typically, people who are in toxic relationships end up navigating towards other damaged people. It's just a way of life. We find our people. We're damaged, they're damaged, we're going to be damaged together. And it doesn't really work so well, especially when you have different attachment styles and different things of that nature. Okay? So in my marriage, I had become more of a secure attachment style. I felt secured. But when my marriage fell apart and the relationship between subject A and I started, I was definitely more of what you would call an anxious attachment. Okay? Anxious attachment is hell. I mean, I can't speak. I'm sure they're all hell to some fucking degree, okay? But overthinking, over worrying, over wondering, over contemplating every single action. And you're not going to believe this, but there is one fucking personality disorder that is absolutely, first of all, well, as you can see in the title, avoidant personality disorder, the behaviors can match very close to that of somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, okay? What happens when you get an anxious attachment person, which is what I was during the throes of my trauma, and they get intimately involved with an avoidant personality disorder? Think Armageddon, okay? Like, it gets bad.
Armageddon.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad. Because anxious attachment styles that's where the needing validation. See, in that moment, he was right. I was looking for validation. That comment scared the shit out of me when you mentioned that he said it, because I was like, that's what narcissists do. Narcissists look for validation, which is another reason why I was like, am I a narcissist? And I went through all of that shit too. Here's the thing I know. If you're looking to grow and change and own your shit, you're not a narcissist. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna, go along with this. So I can't have this big of a heart and want to help people so much. Like, here's the problem. My heart is so big that first we went 7 months no contact. Then 1 month ago, he blows up my fucking phone with the most plethora of slanders and things I don't understand. Like, I can't stop watching your streams because I have to protect my kids. Why on earth would I attack you or your children? Why on earth would I become a threat to you or your children? On what planet does my energy need to have that kind of fucking focus? Now, I understand that there are unhealthy people out there that may come at it that way, okay? But the only thing I've been trying to do is learn how to survive this fucking hell that I've just been through, okay? And we haven't even combed back to the initial onset of my trauma because I'm so busy combing through this fucking so-called relationship that I had, all right? But here's the deal. And I can't talk too much about this. But there's a lie in the midst of that, I fucking realized, because I'm on Facebook this morning, and you know how Facebook suggests friends? Well, I thought I had everybody blocked on both my personal and my business account. Okay, turns out I didn't. And so, suggestion, and yeah, I shouldn't have clicked on anything, but come to find out, like, there's just a life change that's gone on this side of the thing that has me really concerned. So here I'm sitting here, and I got to be very careful because I don't want to share too much private information on this regard, okay? Because I do care, okay? It's just, I care more about myself. which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not that I don't care, okay? It's that I care about myself more and how I'm healing. And I wanted to talk to Subject A about all the things I was feeling. I wanted to have a conversation with Subject A about all the things that were going on. Subject A ghosted me and disappeared for 7 months after 17 years of friendship, and after literally had told me just weeks before, I was like, I'm just gonna move down to the coast. And he was like, I can't handle not seeing you that much. That's not enough for me. How do you go from that's not enough for me to I'm never talking to you again? None of it can be understood by me. Okay. And don't get me wrong. I reeled and I had some really ugly, snappy, nasty, I will say toxic behavior that stemmed from dealing with the beginning of this, the confusion, the anger that came. It is a grief process. Imagine if you could be angry, somebody you've lost in life that has died. Okay. Imagine when you hit that anger stage, you could actually send them an email. Fucking bad idea. But let's just say you could, okay? Let's just say that you could. When you feel angry because they've left you, they've died, or you miss them, or whatever it might be, but now you're dealing with that side of grief of anger, but that person's not really dead. Okay, you can still reach out to them. So I did things. I emailed them. I would go off. I was having trouble processing my emotions. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Thankfully. But I've been increasingly bothered because I continue to educate myself. Because my biggest thing here is, how do I protect myself going forward so that I don't end up so traumatized with complex trauma that I am susceptible to making bad decisions, like having an affair with a married man in the first place. That's on me. What can I do to make sure that people's behavior because I have complex trauma and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. This comes from a long line of various disappointments in relationships. For me, 18 people that have been close to me in my life have died. Okay? Like childhood best friends, my mom. And I'm not even counting my grandparents because I don't know for sure. But I am just talking about like everyday life that I have suffered a lot of loss in this area, which makes me want to live every single day to the best of my ability. So while I was stuck in a place where I couldn't even do that because it was so dark, it was so hard to get out of. When I finally walked away and we came down here 7 months ago, well, 8 now. No, it's not. 6 months ago. It's 6 months.
Yep.
But he had been silent since January because I paid him off in January and then he quit talking to me. And said nasty shit to me. Okay. So here's the thing that came out of all of it though. All of what we had done, everything he had ever said to me in 17 years of friendship, he turns around and it's like he doesn't even know who the fuck I am. Thinking I'm going to be vengeful, thinking I'm going to attack his, family. That's not what it was. I would have never even reached out to his wife to say or explain anything if he would have just afforded me one fucking conversation. Just an adult conversation. Let's just have an adult conversation. If we can't talk to each other, that's fine. Then let's do that. But to completely shut down and say nothing, okay? And then expect that, what did he expect me to do when he decided to reach out to me again? He said he was giving time and that he needed time to could have said that. Could have said that 7 months ago. And I could have respected that. The ignoring me and acting like I'm absolutely nothing when everything was so hot just fucking months before that, just weeks really before that, okay? Literally the last time I saw him was the most magical fucking moment I ever had with him. I look back now and I'm like, I think he was planning it. I think he was absolutely planning it. I came home from that and I was like, oh my God, I've never felt like this. Remember that? Do you remember when I went out with them before your auntie left? and I was like, oh my God, part of me worried for a while that maybe he put my needs above his own and that was the problem. But I could respect that. I could understand that. I mean, conversations could have been had. I really think our friendship could have been preserved. I mean, probably not with the whole family with the way it was handled. But it could have been preserved. The thing is that I eventually would have had to make a choice between whether or not I wanted to, maintain any sort of relationship with my ex-husband because it just wasn't going to be a thing. I can't expect my ex-husband to turn around and just be okay being in my life and being somebody in my life, no matter if it's my ex-husband or if, we're going to be if we ever were to make it back to being, you know, intimate partners or remarried or any of that shit, it would be an absolute asinine fucking ask for me to ask for acceptance in allowing this person in my life. Subject A could not have been in my life. And I didn't want to make that choice. I really didn't. That was not a choice I was going to make. My attitude was behave like somebody I want in my life, and that person will be in my life. Otherwise, get the fuck out of my life. And then it was subject A who started behaving in the manners that was absolutely not what I needed in my life. And ironically, that ended up leading to my ex-husband and I having more real conversations, like real, we don't throw what either one of us did in each other's face right now. We are able of, well, I talk more about it than he does, but that's not surprising. His motives were a little bit different than mine. Meaning that he had motives and I didn't. But so my ex-husband like would turn around and like the reason he acted the way he did was a reaction to being hurt by my behaviors. Okay? So that's a little bit different. But owning and explaining that stuff and really truly opening up and being able to share with my ex-husband exactly what I've gone through, you know, why I made the choices, because it wasn't about him. I did not make these choices. I don't know how to describe it, and I know it's really unpopular. Nobody's going to want to hear this, but I have been now on both sides. I have been the whore in the closet, and I have been the doting, loving wife who has been cheated on, okay? I've been both places now, and now that I've walked in both scenarios, first of all, nothing about my behavior. I may have separated from my husband and done things right on my side, as I say over and over again, but to be a part of something where my behaviors and actions affected a family, the way that my, I don't want to say acceptance, but consent to the relationship, okay? And the way that it was going, I have to own my shit in that. I have a play because you know what? He couldn't have cheated on his wife if I said no, could he? Now, that's not my responsibility, what he's doing, and that's what I told myself in the moment. Well, it's not my responsibility how he handles his situation. I know that I have to handle mine in a certain way because, I mean, the feelings were mutual. We were, well, I thought we both felt very strongly for each other in this certain way. You know, so as messed up and misguided as all of that was, I have to make, okay, I want to be really careful here because I have to make amends somehow in myself and like with myself. And this is going to be something because I understand way more than the average person would. Because I even took a course afterwards. I ended up getting an extra certification in how infidelity causes trauma in relationships. I wanted to understand because no matter if I was separated from my ex-husband or not, the way that my actions affected him and the repercussions and the feelings are that equivalent to infidelity. But in learning about it, as I was learning about it, I realized that both subject A and I had affected the people we had claimed to love. That he had been married for how many years? I've been married for 24 years. We affected the people we loved in a manner, and I wanted to learn to understand how. And it's so damaging that, quite honestly, I have had to forgive myself, and the only reason it was even possible is because I know I won't make that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure my brain is never so screwed up that that's the way it thinks again. I'm going to do everything in my power. I never cheated in 24 years of my marriage, okay? It has been something that is the ultimate deceit. The fact that it was so out of my character to even accept it the way that I did, because I removed myself from it, which is a cop-out. It's a baby bitch move, okay? I was a baby bitch. Or maybe a big bitch. It depends on how you really want to look at this, okay? So the only way I can't control all of everything on that side of the fence, obviously, right? And that's what I had to accept. But here's what I can do. I can learn to understand where why I was reacting to subject A and the situation and everything. Why was I willing to do that? Why was this? Which is what led me down the path, which then led me to find out that I was, and it took a lot of convincing, but that I was suffering from narcissistic abuse symptoms. Now, here is the deal though, chat. Psychology is science, but it is not a fine science, okay? They can't just actually, there's a lot of brain imaging that can go on to try to figure out where things are. But when it comes to personality and actions and behaviors, motives, and all of that, psychology is not a fine science. It's a generalized science that doesn't always fit. And actually, there's a reason why I really want to look it up just so I know how many. But let's just see how many pages is the DSM-5. Is approximately 991 pages. There are 991 pages of fine print definitions that classify you for a personality disorder. Think about that. And I know this because when I was taking all my therapy courses, when I was actually, because in Alabama, I could have gotten licensing to be an in-home family counselor. Okay.
She's smart.
Yeah. So, but I had access to the DSM through my TheraSense software. Okay. So it allowed you to be able to go and look at the symptomatic behaviors, and then it would pull from the DSM to figure out where these things come from. And this is how I ended up learning that because I remember when our family member that we were staying with, when she left her abusive ex, okay? When we had gone to stay up there with them in 2011, I was like, this is weird. I thought both her daughter and her counterpart were possibly on the spectrum, as I had just learned about the spectrum. Here's the deal. Spectrum behaviors, there's a lot of them. Here's what happens. The behaviors can be the same through multiple personality disorders. What changes is the cause and intent. There's a cause and an intent for why it happens. It is a very complex individual science. Not one shoe will fit everybody, okay? So here's the thing. I found out I was suffering from narcissistic abuse symptoms. That is what happened is after trying to convince me that I was dealing with a narcissist, approach changes and we go, here are your behaviors. Why are you acting this way? And it says that suffering from emotional abuse, trauma, obviously, CPTSD, but there is narcissistic emotional abuse specific. Now, this is not, from what I understand, I haven't looked this up, but I am almost positive this doesn't actually land in the DSM-5. It is a theory right now, so just wait for DSM-6 to come out. It probably will become a thing. But
and it'll probably be like 12,000 million pages.
But that coupled, okay, with the fact that narcissistic traits do not make somebody narcissistic, all right? But narcissistic traits can be learned and the behaviors can still have an effect, all right? The difference is narcissistic traits are a learned behavior that people typically don't even realize that they are exhibiting, or why they're exhibiting them, or why they're that way, and they just aren't aware or don't know how to change it, but they can change. Somebody that has fully ingrained NPD with narcissistic personality disorder, and there is only about 2% of the population that will stand with this, okay? According to statistics, a lot of people believe that it's a lot more common than that, but here's the deal. The 2% of that population that actually has NPD raises children, right? Children watch those people grow. You learn from watching your parents. You have no idea why your parent might behave that way, but you're smart enough to fucking watch it and know that this is how the world works and how you can get what you maybe want, right? Now you're behaving this way and you don't even realize that it's unhealthy. Okay? And so anyways, the difference is, for me, when I came across avoidant personality disorder and wanted to learn more about it because it's so close to narcissism, sadly, at this point, I really don't believe it would change a damn thing for me. Like, it's not like I can go back. It's not like, but what if? This is my problem. What if I had known about this? Could I have had better control? Could I have reacted differently? Could I have had more compassion? Could I have had more understanding? Could I have done better? And I think I could have. I think that I was with my anxious attachment. If subject A is not in fact narcissist, but actually avoidant, my behavior was exasperating, exhausting, and confusing. Okay? And if that's the case, you couple that with my trauma and my over need to try to over explain myself because I'm fearing being misunderstood, literally would lead to me being completely misunderstood. But where in the hell would he have ever gotten that I would be vengeful? I mean, maybe in some of my darkest moments, because I had 2 or 3 moments where my brain actually blacked out due to trauma. And that I don't remember. And it was like a detachment. My psychiatrist was watching me for dissociative identity disorder because my brain was fracturing and my trauma was so fucking complex and so severe that I now will have to have a mental health check-in if I ever detachment or anything like that, like, because it was a physical thing. I described it like literally being an out-of-body experience. Like, it was crazy. It was a crazy experience to have you to realize your brain is that strong that you can do that. Like, that's insane. Okay. I'll never be able to explain that, the very first onset of it. But I had 2 moments after that where apparently I blacked out and I said really awful things to subject A that I don't remember. And so, but this would be the result of literally pushing me too far. So in all actuality, whether he realizes it or not, on 3 separate occasions, his behavior almost literally broke my brain. And for me, that I don't trust anybody enough. I've had to put in all this work to get well that at that point, like, if you're capable of doing that to my brain, look, I've talked about how my looks, people think I am pretty, and that I have talked about my confidence in that area. There's lots of characteristics, my brain, okay, is the most important thing to me. That is the most important thing to me. I am so thankful for at what level I'm able to learn things, for what level I'm able to process things, for what, just my intellect is in my personal place is my number one. My loving heart probably used to be number 2. It may have even sometime been put above number 1, but that is not the case anymore. That thing's not even on the radar anymore. I will not probably ever be able to, no, I probably will never be able to navigate situations again with the amount of love and care for people in my heart that I used to have. And I think that is part of the trauma of realizing that when I hit my lowest and I was breaking, so many people that I did love and I did care about in that way, either whether they just abandoned me, but so many made it worse. So many actually pushed me to a limit instead of being supportive or understanding or helpful, despite how many times I've been supportive and understanding and helpful to any one of them. And therefore, making me learn that I don't want to be that understanding and helpful to anyone again, that the only person I'm going to be that understanding and helpful to is going to be myself. And other than that, I tell my kids, how many times have I told you right now, IG, well, you're going through, because there's been trauma things. And I've looked right at you and I said, even though you're my kid, I have learned that I can't help you. I will give you the information. I will tell you what I think. But if you're going to blow me off, well, I'm done. I'm not going to try. Because the only person that can truly help themselves is ourselves. We have to be willing to hear certain things. We have to be willing to understand. And it doesn't make that, just because somebody sees you some way, doesn't make it the right way. How many times have you and I had a conversation where I will say, I think this is where your trauma is coming from. And then you're like, no, okay, I didn't realize that, but I actually don't think it's that. This is what I think it is. It leads you to a self-revelation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So me stating that I think that you're dealing with trauma because of X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that you're dealing with trauma from X, Y, and Z, but it might mean that you really are still struggling with trauma and only you are going to be able to figure that out. And you have to be willing to hear that, right? Subject A literally told me, stop talking psychology. I can't handle it, which is going to bring me to all of this. So let's get into this, because this is what I've watched all of this. I'm like, why would he think that I'm going to attack him? Why is he so I mean, unless he really did something wrong. That's the other side. As a narcissist, if they've done something and they really are lying in a way where they just can't have their lies cross over, that is an attack to them. Okay, that is an attack. Absolutely, having information that they have lied about where you might be able to tell somebody else information that they haven't said. Well, that's an attack. That's a threat, actually. And so even if I didn't mean to, if he has lied about a whole bunch of things, then he would take me as, being threatening and feel like I was that. But I would never go out of my way. The irony is I was so angry because I wanted to be wrong so badly that when I started it, and first we started the podcast with the trauma dumping, but then as I was learning things and I realized, I was like, all right, let's talk about healthy communication, because I was not being communicated with in a healthy manner. So let's just assume, since Subject A at the time is watching all of my streams, let's just assume that he doesn't understand healthy behavior. Let me put out some information. So I did the podcast on healthy behavior, only to get slammed with the most unhealthy, slanderous fucking reaction known to mankind, okay? So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, that's disappointing.
Huh.
So then I hear I get the article and I read this article, How to Torture a Narcissist. Well, I haven't been able to really truly accept he's a narcissist. So I'm going to follow these key facts and I'm going to do this. And then every single reaction that I got was exactly what they said would happen if I behaved in a certain way. You do this, they will do that. Check. You do this, they will do that. Check. So, in the messages that after healthy communication, the slanderous messages that came across, I was like, okay, maybe he just doesn't understand how he's affected me. Maybe he just doesn't understand how his behaviors has truly affected me. I'm going to do a podcast on narcissistic discard. Which is then met with, you're just fabricating things, basically. I'd have to go back and pull the exact words. The exact words don't matter to me. Here's the point. Not an ounce of consideration of how his behavior may have affected me or my family. And quite frankly, I'm convinced at this point he may not even care how it affected his own, which is definitely true to a narcissist. But then, as I keep learning, because this is the person I am, chat, just to be clear, my whole entire life, all right? I don't know when it really started, because it's been my whole entire life. When I was on my own at 16, I ended up renting a room from a very loving family in northern rural Minnesota. The head of household, the father of the household, okay, struggled with bipolar, manic depressive bipolar disorder. All right. So I started learning. I wanted to understand what his struggles were. He saved my life. He helped me. He gave me a bridge when I was adamant I was going to go back up and graduate with my class that had been there with me when my mom died. My dad had moved. I had goals and I was going to do it. And I was making some bad choices about how I was going to get there. I mean, literally was willing to live homeless just to go to high school and graduate with my class. When he was like, okay, I've got an extra room, $100 a month. You can come and stay. All right. That's amazing. So I did. And this man taught me so much. It's probably the first time I started to really learn about how the world that functions on more average, or if you want to, neurotypical levels, have misunderstandings for people who are struggling with mental health. And it's probably where the birth of my understanding mental health and wanting to be a better person, really, that's where the seed was planted. To not just assume. And also, just to be clear, this particular person, my father had said he was the craziest batshit crazy person in the fucking face of the planet, and he was a worthless piece of shit, and wouldn't even let me go over. When I did live with my father, he wouldn't even let me go over to this person's house because he was so crazy. And then I end up living there, and he's the only person that opened the door to me and helped me, and the whole family did. And it was a humbling, and it made me want to understand why people judge, why people this. Well, I was young.
Well, people suck.
They do. And I was really young. And so I did grow to have a certain level of understanding in how to treat people and whatever, but nothing taught me more than when Parker was born. I had an idea in my head of what kind of mother I wanted to be, an idea in my head of what kind of family. I was probably on the fucking path of really becoming a narcissist, actually. Thank God I got therapy. But I really fucking imagine I was on the path of narcissism and Parker saved my life. Autism saved my life, not clickbait. Probably why I fucking feel that way. I feel like, I have learned so much from those on the spectrum in my life that has taught me how to be a better person. It's insane. But anyhow, so it plants this seed of me wanting to really understand things. And when I really care about somebody, it hasn't mattered. If I really care about them and they really are going to get any of my energy in life, then I really want to be the best support, the best person I can be. And I've always wanted to do this for them. What I had to learn in the last 6 months, I guess it is how to do that for myself and be the best person for myself. And then leave that be my focus. Because unfortunately, at this point, I feel like I'd be like an alcoholic. You take me into a bar and I'm going to fucking care more about other people than I would care about myself, and I'll regress. So therefore, right now, I'm keeping my social circle extremely small. It's not to say I'll never be able to go out again and have friends. It just means that until I am rooted in habitual behavior of loving myself and being able to be confident and owning my own shit and making sure that codependency specifically is gone and broken. Okay, that is the most important thing. Okay, then any new relationship right now Okay, cannot be something that I cannot even try to embark on one with because it does not, it will take my focus away from being my best self. Until I become better at practicing what I have learned and it becomes a habit, then I can't just open the door, because I will probably naturally navigate back to the selflessness of trying to help others and all the things that has gotten me into trouble and it landed me in the situation that I've been in anyway. So it has to become just habit that I take care of myself first, which is really hard when you've been a people pleaser. Okay, to people pleasers, taking care of ourselves is selfish. Taking a minute for ourselves is selfish. And if we haven't been good enough for others, we don't deserve it. Okay? So putting others in my atmosphere while I'm learning how to do this is probably not the greatest idea for me. And I have to recognize that. And I have to know that, right? So especially new people. I mean, well, maybe even more importantly, older people, older relationships. Okay. But either way, the point is, I know where I stand and I know what my weaknesses are. I know what my flaws are. I know where my goals are on self-help, working on it, how I want to be a better person. And I can't be deviated from that. I can't be distracted. I can't do it. So here's the problem. I'm having an internal struggle right now with my past self and my current self. Okay? Because my past self would have done everything I just said. Want to learn, want to help, want to understand, want to adjust my behavior, understanding the psychology behind a person so that I could be a better support so that they could be their best person. That was my go-to. That is how I've handled life for literally since 2000 at least, okay? So for 25 years, I've been doing it this way. When, I learned that my son had autism, I became an autism advocate. I literally started working for a diagnostic facility as a parent liaison, helping parents understand what this meant, what they were going to go through, all of this stuff, so that they could be their best self. Literally what I did. Well, until at one point I realized after going out in the world enough that I could not raise enough awareness in the world, and my real job was to teach my son how the world was going to look at him, because I couldn't change the world, but I can change my son. I can help my son understand that just because he's different doesn't make him less. I can help my son understand that he has issues, but that recognizing them doesn't make him less of a person. It makes him aware of them so that he can understand when people may react to him in ways that he wouldn't otherwise have understood. It put me on a whole new path. And I can't tell you how many times I've looked at P and been like, the world sucks. Don't forget it. The world may not always understand you. Your family does, but the world may not always understand you. But that doesn't mean you need to feel badly, and it doesn't mean that you need to feel sorry. Like, here are the things, though, that we really do need to work on, because these are, I don't believe that P wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but he can come across really rude. Lately,
like really rude.
Lately, he's having a little bit of problems with his emotional regulation, which is actually a good thing. The anger he showed you in the kitchen the other day, for example, means that he's working through things. He's trying to grow, and it's going to look different for him because he is so severely on the spectrum, okay? But it is still progress, okay? And how we interact with that. So I spent all of his life learning how to control my emotional regulation so I could speak in a manner where I'm not giving an emotional reaction, all right? Which is another one of those signs that popped up on narcissism. If you react to them, they're looking for an emotional reaction. The one time I took my emotion out of something and said something to subject A, he was like, what are you doing? What's that voice? Don't do that. These little red flags have left me sitting there, because here's the bottom line, guys. If he's a fucking narcissist, that's evil, and I have no space. And I really don't, then I don't really care, because there's no help. And the damage that could be done on and on and on and on again, that kind of fucking awareness, that matters to me. I would not want anybody to end up in a kind of relationship. I have never had my soul, for the only time in my entire existence, and I've talked about this before. I mean, my mother died when I was 12. My father, literally beat the crap out of me and was emotionally abusive on top of that. I ran away and jumped out my window at 15. I took my dad to court at 16. I've been on my own ever since. I have lost people. People have died. People have disappeared. The amount of shit that I have been through in my life has never made me lose my faith. But my relationship with subject A, I had a loss of faith. I did I didn't pray as much. I didn't believe I was worthy of God's love. That probably also stems a little bit, though, from, having an affair. I had fucked up, and I did not believe that I had done something that, like, I just didn't believe I was worth God's love. I mean, quite honestly, which is not something I have ever fucking struggled with. Okay. And I have been actually, I mean, I may have grown to be a better person, but the years from about 1998 to 2005, there about, I think I probably did more then that should have put me on God's shit list. I'm just saying. Wasn't the best person. I'm just saying, I wasn't the best person.
I'm just saying.
But still didn't stop me from thinking I was worthy of it, but my relationship with Subject A literally made me feel like not even God could love me. And I talk about this in the streams a lot, and just so we're clear, guys, I don't like the terms of things like, I like to use the term when I talk about my beliefs. I am a faithful person. But I believe in just about everything, and I believe everybody has a right to believe in whatever they believe, and I don't believe that there's any point in arguing what is. There's no argument, okay? Like. There is enough out there on every single subject for every single group to be able to have some sort of argument, but there's no point in arguing. Let them choose what they want to believe in, and let me choose what I want to believe in. And don't, like, it's not my job to push, my belief system onto another person. It's also not my job to judge another person because of their belief system. I've been friends with agnostics, atheists, and people that just simply don't believe in anything. It doesn't curb my faith. That doesn't stop me. Okay. It's not it's just, this is a personal thing, and what we believe is personal. But for me, it is a belief in God. And I did believe that I wasn't worth God's love during the time that this was all going on. And I mean, I think people that understand this should be able to also understand why I was there. I mean, I'm not the kind of person. My mom took me to the lake for church. I mean, I was in Sunday school up until first grade, but like, she taught me God is all around us. Like, you have to, you don't go to church on Sunday to, turn around and, it's not a one-time thing. It's all the time thing, and so it's kind of how I was raised. And so anyhow, but for me, I just couldn't see how, on the side of the fact that this was a married man, that God would even, like, I was doing bad things. Nothing that God would smile on. And so in that midst of that, with my complex trauma and the CPTSD and everything that I was really in the throes, like the darkest moments of my life, I was, convinced so all these little checks, let me get here. All these little checks come down to, okay, I must be dealing with a narcissist. How could I deal with a narcissist when my father was a narcissist? You'd think I would have known. How can I be a victim's advocate, not recognize an intimate, partner situation? How stupid could I be? All these things come to me. So as I regain my clarity, and I come across this article, and then Subject A lashes out after 7 months of no contact, lashes out at me, basically telling me how much of a horrible fucking person I am. Okay. And that I'm not better, and I'm unhealthy, and who wants to listen to me when I just keep saying the same shit over and over again? And shit of that nature. Okay. Which is called rumination, chat, just so you know. It's called rumination. You get stuck in the hamster wheel because you're hitting a brick wall, because most of the time closure entails two individuals, having closure, dealing with it. But clearly neither one of us could be adults or something. Well, one of us definitely wasn't going to be on that path. So anyways, I keep doing this research. Once I have accepted that this may be the case, enough red flags have now gone off. So I haven't stopped in the last month. I haven't stopped learning, which is why I ended up coming across avoidant personality disorder. And this is a game changer, because here's the deal. The effects are basically the same. So there is treatment for avoidant personality disorder, but the problem is that the damage that will be done because of the behaviors, this may be, and a very small percentage of the population has avoidant personality disorder, okay? People can have avoidant attachment styles, which is a little bit different. But so let me do this. We're going to go and we're reading from My Cleveland Clinic, okay? This is a psychological
Dude,
website.
you say that, and all I can think of is Cleveland Rhymer, fucking Family Guy, cheapest cross.
Wow. All right. So let's just read it. What is avoidant personality disorder? Avoidant personality disorder, known as AVPD, is a mental health condition that involves chronic feelings of inadequacy, extreme sensitivity to criticism. People with AVPD would like to interact with others, but they tend to avoid social interactions due to their intense fear of rejection. AVPD is one of a group of conditions called cluster C of personality disorders. They involve anxiety and fear. Personality disorders are lasting patterns of behavior that are out of touch with cultural norms, how we'd expect to act or how we're expected to act, and develop in childhood or adolescence. They cause distress for the person with the condition and or those around them. So, let's say that fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, or fear of intimacy is actually what stemmed the behaviors that really truly hurt me. That makes me sad. That makes me sad because I don't know where. I mean, I guess because of my trauma, and I lost because I was especially in the very beginning, so emotionally dysregulated and out of control. And I know I said some extremely hurtful things that would break and shatter somebody's trust. So I have to own that, even though I don't even know to the fullest extent what those are. I have to own that because for somebody that could have possibly avoidant personality disorder, those would have been just almost equally as hurtful as what he did to me. But the difference is, I am willing to consider that this may be a thing. Will it change anything? Is it going to fix anything? Nah, unlikely. Because here's the other thing. At this point, so much has been said and everything has been done. Here's what I do know. I will not reach out to him again. It will not happen. It's no fucking way in hell. So, and if he is avoidant, he'll never reach out to me. So it's over either way. If he did reach out to me, even if I could be understanding, I'm going to be so guarded because I'll never know. I mean, there was not truth, honesty, and communication. And that is the building blocks of any. A lot of the things I thought about him, I assumed he had this great heart. I assumed he had this like deep love. I assumed he had this great understanding for me, but it's disproven the moment that he thinks I'm going to attack his family out of a vengeful. Well, then he didn't know me at all. I'm not that person. Okay? I'm not that person. And nothing I'm doing in my podcast was ever personally, actually, I wanted to use it to see if maybe I could get a message to him to help him because that's what kind of a fucking sad ass I am. Okay? Like fucking ridiculous, but that's not how it was taken. It was taken as an attack as per usual. Classic of narcissism. Here's the problem. The avoidant personality would also have possibly made the choices he made that hurt me to the point that led me to all of these revelations. Okay? But all of it for different reasons. And if my behavior, actually, let's just look at it this way. If I'm wrong and it's not narcissism, and he is struggling with avoidant personality disorder or even avoidant attachment styles, I basically Uno reverse carded it without meaning to, meaning that...
Imagine getting Uno reverse carded?
That the pain that he called me, my behaviors and the way that I have conducted myself and what he has chosen to be a part of would have possibly, I almost said crushed his soul, assuming he has one. Wow.
Well, I mean, you did just say it though.
Yeah, I know because I'm truth and
wow.
I'm authentically true, and that was what went through my head. So here's what I'm going to say about that. That is lingering amounts of hurt and anger I'm still working through. All right, it's going to be a thing. I mean, he has to have a soul. He's breathing. All right, everybody is worthy of God's love. Okay, all right, we're going to leave it alone. I'm going to move along. But so here are some of the side effects, though. Here's something to know. So who does avoidant personality? And I have 2 pages here that I've taken notes on. Avoidant personality disorder usually begins in your late teens to early 20s. AVPD is also likely to affect people with any of the following mental health conditions. And this is where I got really scared. Because just like narcissism, if you are raised by somebody who Now let's just go out on a limb, because all of this has taught me and taken me down a path where subject A's wife definitely falls in every one of the lines of actual female narcissist. Okay. Checks a lot of them. Again, I've talked about it before. Is it a reaction to behavior? Is it this? It's not my job to figure it out. I just know what I know. Okay. And I know that even in my worst state of mind, my concern when we went to go stay with them was the kids and seeing what was going on. I was like, holy shit. I literally felt like subject A was being used as a weapon. Now I look back and I'm like, well, who created the weapon? Did his behavior create that threat, or was his wife using that to create a threat? I have no idea, and it's none of my business. Okay. And as much as I love those kids and always will, it's none of my business. Okay. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to just stop caring. You know, when you care about people, you want what's best for them. What I have had to learn is it's not my job to help them achieve it, no matter how I feel. Okay. So, but here's the deal. Clinical depression, persistent depressive disorder, social anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic disorder, anorexia nervosa, and binge eating disorders. You can see why I'm concerned. That's a concerning list, don't you think?
It is a concerning list.
Yeah. So, symptoms and causes of avoidant personality disorder. All right. The Cleveland Clinic states that, just with their little pretty picture, because that's how we like to think, okay, just bullet points: choosing isolation over social situations, hypersensitive to criticism, poor self-image, fear of being embarrassed. Well, fear of being embarrassed, if I'm talking, nobody knows who subject A is. I have done everything to protect his privacy. I don't have as many friends as he thinks I do. I don't talk to as many people. I'm talking right here. Anything I say to anybody is said right here, because I don't talk to anybody else except for my family. Okay? So, because that's been my choice now. That's why I'd rather come on the internet and be able to ramble like this and do a podcast, because the people out in the world that want to hear it are at least going to come listen, instead of trying to wish that people wanted to hear me that don't want to listen. Okay? That is the only fucking real drive behind everything. I needed to get it out of my head because it was holding me back, and I need to live. All right. I can't be sad that, and missing this person who is not actually dead for the rest of my life. I can't do that. Okay. So, the main sign of avoidant personality disorder is having such a strong fear of rejection that you choose isolation over being around people. This pattern of behavior can vary from mild to extreme. So here's the deal. Okay. One of the, what in the world is going on my phone? One of the things about it that always kind of bothered me is the timing of subject A losing his job and cutting everything off with me. Also, he said on multiple occasions that he was gonna screw it up, that he wasn't good enough. Okay, for me. If he has a self-image that he wasn't able to maintain, not because of narcissism, because narcissists do that too, but because he legitimately felt inferior, so he took himself away from the relationship because he just didn't think he was good enough to be involved with me, that breaks my heart. Versus he did it out of control to manipulate me and hurt me, which pisses me off. Do you see what I'm saying? This is why this matters to me. This is why it matters. Does it change anything? Again, it could have changed something if I knew this shit beforehand, and if this is actually what it is. If I would have been privy to this information and this is what it actually is, I probably could have had a little bit of compassion and understanding to how I was interacting with him. So here is the deal, guys. You're sitting there, and it's so hard when you're hurting, and especially because this does mirror narcissism so closely, okay? And you can't believe somebody would hurt you like that, and you're so angry, okay? And meanwhile, here's the difference. A lot of people believe that narcissists know they're narcissists because they're doing everything out of the drive for control, where a person with avoidant personality disorder may not even realize why they're acting the way that they are, or more importantly, how it affects others. Okay? So other signs of avoidant behavior: having poor self-image, seeing themselves as inadequate and inferior, being overly concerned about criticism or disapproval, may be reluctant to become involved with others unless they know for sure that others will like them, experiencing extreme anxiety, nervousness, and fear in social settings and relationships. This may lead them to avoid activities or jobs that involve being with others, being shy and self-conscious in social situations due to a fear of doing something wrong or feeling embarrassed, tending to exaggerate potential problems or misinterpret feedback as negative. Seldom trying anything new or taking chances. Isn't that interesting? Now, so let's just look at this. Let me, because tending to exaggerate potential problems or misinterpret feedback as negative. Let's just look at how do narcissists respond to constructive criticism? Because this is where this would lie. I bet you. So, narcissists respond with defensive tactics like rage or gaslighting as they perceive it as a personal attack on their fragile yet superior self-image. You can see why this is such a damn confusion. This
is very simple stuff.
he told me once that he felt extremely misunderstood. It was one of the healthiest things that he said to me. I kind of ignored it. Because my attitude was, you feel misunderstood? Fucking explain yourself. I mean, I never even got a chance, right? I feel like the narcissist would want to argue their point where the avoidant is going to give up. Did he give up or did he walk away to control me? He told me multiple times
to control others.
He told me multiple times, I know you think I manipulated and controlled you, but that's not what it was. Well, that's exactly what somebody who is trying to manipulate and control you would fucking want to tell you, okay? Like, what, you want me to believe that? Well, your actions are that you're going to tell me that you can't live without me. You can't live with seeing me every other weekend when I bring my son up to the city to see his dad. But you stop talking to me for 7 months and call me a life ruiner.
You know what I think it like boils down to though is like, because you're like, I think it wasn't to like manipulate and control you like the actions he took at the end. It was I think he saw you as like a lost cause. Like you were just in something he couldn't control anymore, or it was too hard to control.
Was it something he couldn't control anymore, or was it something he'd never be good enough to achieve?
No.
Let's be real. I may have been broken, but I'm a badass. I'm intimidating.
I mean, that is true, but I think it just came down to the fact that it was just too much.
My self-confidence can, when it is at full peak, can shake the strongest of individuals. True fact.
That is a true fact.
So,
but I don't think that's what that was necessarily.
You think that?
Because when I had a conversation with him, it was along the lines of like, oh, I don't want to mix the two of these, like, you know, these two individuals up that I'm having an affair with kind of situation. It was like, I think it just got to the point where you were too...
expecting too much.
I don't know. Yeah, that's true. I guess that would be the right way. I wouldn't say expecting too much. You were just expecting change.
And communication.
And communication out of someone who, you know, that
didn't want to change or communicate.
That takes down his whole operation. If you think about it.
If he's a narcissist.
Think about it. If you're trying to control a situation, what is the number one thing that you can see this in historian dictators? What is the number one thing somebody takes away first from people to maintain control? And that is their form of communications. If you can't communicate with others, it leaves a control factor that allows you to control narratives, because if you can't communicate with others, you can't have certain secrets come out. You can't have certain realities come to light because they can't communicate. Think about it. If I stab someone and someone witnessed it, and I sew their mouth shut, how is that person going to let everybody else in the world know that I'm a murderer?
Okay, that's an interesting. I totally God. You know, I don't know who raised you, but they must have been really smart.
Bruh. This is the shit I have to deal with, guys. This is the shit I have to deal with.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're really solid on this. You're absolutely right. Too many, and you know what? Okay, so we're gonna talk about this. I'm going to talk about this, and I haven't talked about this, so viewer discretion be advised, all right? Do I have to do something if I talk about intimate relationships on YouTube when I post this, because here's the deal.
I don't think so. I think you'll be fine. It depends on what light.
Okay.
Just don't say the R word.
Okay. I don't need to.
Okay,
this one night. Okay, this one night, after you had told me that you thought that I had canceled that concert for the wrong reasons. Okay? I, in my trauma brain, did not believe that Subject A would give me the time of day to actually talk about it if I told the truth. I invited him over under false pretense. Well, they weren't false. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been false. But saying, hey, why don't we have a good time? Okay? In this intimate way. Okay? And what I wanted to do that night is I wanted to explain to him why I had decided I didn't want to go to the concert and that I had thought I had done it for the wrong reasons and what I was actually feeling and thinking about it. Okay? He told me he was too busy, that he couldn't stop by, but he was kind of annoyed by it. Okay? And that always confused me. But unfortunately, in my traumascape, there was only one thing men truly, truly valued from me. Okay? And that would be being intimate. We'll just use that word. It sounds like such a stupid word. I mean, I just use the F word, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay.
I got
Okay, so here's the deal, though. When he said no, your dad ended up in the area, and I needed to have a conversation with him, telling him that I thought I was going to go to this concert and why I was going to do it and why I was going to make that choice. So I asked your dad to come over, and we were sitting there talking, and I was explaining to him that I was going to talk to Subject A, and I was going to tell Subject A that I would go to the concert, but I wasn't going to stay. We weren't going to get a hotel or anything. Like, I needed to come back. We would have to drive up there and come right back, just because of where your dad's mental was, like where it was at. He and I were not. He was seeing somebody else. So but at the same time, just because of the navigating the very complex, emotions involved. All right. So since Subject A was too busy, I decided to have the conversation with your dad. So your dad's truck was in the driveway. When Subject A came home from work, what do you think he thought? That because he turned me down, that I went and found it somewhere else. That's what I would have thought. I didn't think about it like that in the moment, but that's what I would have thought. Little did he know that I was actually sitting there explaining to him how these new boundaries meant that I was going to make a choice that I very much knew was going to upset my ex-husband, and that I wanted to talk to him and have this conversation. Problem is, Subject A called me during that conversation, and he never called me. He never called me. And I ignored his call because I was in the midst of explaining why I was going to go to this concert, why it mattered to me, why I was going to make sure that there were boundaries set, what the expectation was, because I really did feel that if I didn't go to that concert, I was going to regret it. Okay? Subject A had no way of knowing that that's what was going on. I am fairly certain Subject A assumed that I just went and got a piece of ass from someone else. Okay? Completely valid assumption on the real. All right? But what ensued after that was a loss of Subject A's emotional control. He ignored me I didn't get to talk to him until the next day. Apparently, he and his wife had this huge disagreement. Subject A never asked me any questions, never told me anything. This is all my assumption because I would have assumed the same thing. And unfortunately, if this is how it went down, Subject A was wrong. He had no idea. I did not. I had called and there was no intimacy between me. Your father left that night. But the point is that if he thought that just because he couldn't come over after work, that I went to go find a piece of ass somewhere else and that affected him emotionally and he spiraled with it and made that assumption and thinks that's what I was doing and has figured that out, what do you think the fucking psychological ramifications going forward from that would have been? I'm just saying.
Probably not good.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. I feel like narcissism would want to take that on and be like, you fucking stepped out of line, control thing, not the level of ignorance and never even bringing it up. He never asked me. He never said anything. I always made this assumption because of the way he reacted, his behavior and everything. I always figured that that's what happened, is that he assumed I was doing something else. Not that I didn't have, like, I could be doing whatever I want. It's not like, what were subject A and I doing? It's not like, what, just committed to me with his married wife on the side? I mean, come the fuck on. I was insane, okay? There was no reason for anybody, which he would have told himself, though. He would have logically known that he had no reason to truly be upset, which could have caused a real, I don't know, a real hurtful emotional reaction, really. A feeling of loss, a feeling of, now, is it a loss of control? Or is it a loss because, did he feel like just because he wouldn't do something for me, I was just going to go get it elsewhere? Because that is toxicity. I could see how that would have been assumed, okay? But if that's what I was doing, I would think I'm the most horrible person on the face of the planet. I mean, then again, looking back, having an affair makes me think I'm the most horrible person on the planet too. So maybe I'm just biased against myself. I have no idea. But again, the reason why this all really truly matters to me, and here, I'll just read this. I wrote this last night as I was thinking, learning, and reading about all of this, okay? I wrote something that, and posted it to Facebook. And let me find it, because we all know how I am. All right. So it was the avoidant script, and I sent this to you. I don't know if you listened to it, but I sent this to you. Here's what I said. Holy crazy. I keep learning more, but I heard every one of these. It's so mind-boggling because in the beginning of my research, the only key contrast between avoidant and narcissist was intent. Sadly, the emotional abuse symptoms one may experience after having a relationship of this nature are the same. All I know is that it almost killed me either way. The most soul-crushing experience of my life. But if it wasn't due to evil, well, in that case, I definitely cared enough once upon a time. And when I care about anyone or anything, I work to understand it better. I've gone no contact and can't go backwards, but I will always stay true to myself. Could have things been different if I understood this? If the person who mattered to me could benefit from me raising awareness on this topic, I'll still do it because love, care, and compassion can't just be turned off like a switch for the majority of us. If bringing this topic to light can help just one person hurt less on either side of the situation, I'm down for learning more and sharing what I learn, even if this time the knowledge won't actually change anything in my own personal life. I think that is the best way for me to put this. Here's the deal. If people are in relationships and suffering from behaviors that are making them real, that are borderline, that literally look so close to narcissism, but it's avoidant, a simple change in the dynamic of how you conduct yourself to put the avoidant at ease can be beneficial and help them heal. And if you love somebody that's an avoidant, like this is just like me learning more about Asperger's and being on the spectrum and adjusting my behavior so that my husband could be his best self at the time. Okay? Because, and honestly, it was about me getting healthy overall and just understanding and caring enough about a person, not to sacrifice yourself, but to adjust yourself because you don't want to hurt them. And looking at this, if he is in fact avoidant, everything that I have, all of my actions from the trauma on would have been the same cusp of hell that he put me through with his reactions. Okay? So which means that we both basically annihilated each other, which is so fucking Romeo and Juliet bullshit. Which is not, I'm not going to romanticize this. I'm not going to romanticize this, chat. This is just psychology, okay? But it's literally like that. It's like so, but I have no way of knowing because A, he lied. B, he pulled these behaviors and the lack of communication. I was left to my own assumptions. At what point did those assumptions become just a reality for me? Because there's no other explanation because he hasn't given me any fucking information, right? So, and then since then, he's attacked me so much. You're never going to get better. You haven't changed at all. Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Oh, wow. That's a narcissistic fucking apology. I didn't mean it like that. But I know I have changed. I've changed a great deal. It may not be in the way he likes because I've become more knowledgeable and been enlightened. Now, have I been enlightened to the wrong thing? Possibly. That is possible. Because if he is an avoidant, then I didn't have all the fucking information in the first place. Now, what if I understood avoidant behavior before he and I embarked on it? What if what we had really was as magical as I thought it was? What if the way we felt around each other and how we spent time together really was real? It's still been something I have had to grieve and overcome. This doesn't excuse the fact that the behaviors had an effect on me the way they did. But what it does change is when I'm sitting here and I'm being truthful and authentic as I claim to be, If I am aware that there is a possibility that somebody could be something that is similar to narcissism without being narcissistic, and I could put that information out there, here's the deal. I cared very deeply for subject A my whole entire friendship with him. I would not want to be a person that makes his life worse. Okay? That he thought that was my goal at the podcast. Like I was just attacking him. He felt I haven't come out. I haven't been like, here's his, I haven't doxed him for Christ's sake. Okay? Like, I would want to be true to myself. And if I have learned this and I was wrong, I would want to own the fact that I'm wrong, even if it doesn't change the outcome, for starters. Secondly, what if people are hearing my stuff and they think that it resonates home and they're in this relationship at this time, or they're thinking about, and they really believe they're dealing with a narcissist because they have no idea what avoidant behaviors are or where they come from. Okay? Well, there's a difference. Again, narcissism is rarely treatable. Okay? I mean, you can treat it, but very rarely. There is a complete lack of empathy. Narcissism falls on the side of I can't ever say that, sociopathism. They are
sociopathic.
They are
Sociopathism.
They can be considered a sociopath. I like that wording better, okay? Like, and so because they don't feel bad at all for what they do. Avoidance will lose their emotional composure when they feel completely misunderstood. Okay? So, okay. Personality disorders, including AVPD, are among the least understood mental health conditions. Hence why I'm talking about it, y'all. Okay? Researchers are still trying to figure out the exact cause of them, but they think that AVPD develops due to several factors, including genetics. One study on AVPD estimated that genetics account for about 64% of the likelihood of developing it. Temperament during infancy. Researchers have found connections between certain temperament traits during infancy and AVPD. They include rigidity, hypersensitivity, not pursuing new experiences, avoiding possible harm more than usual, and excessive fear and distress. All right, attachment style. People with fearful attachment style may be more likely to develop AVPD. A fearful attachment style means that you have a desire for closeness with others, but have distrust in them and a fear of rejection. I can completely see that in subject A. And my behavior, because I was dealing with bullshit, would have never been one that would have given him a calm space for this. Okay? Like, he had a reason with the way I was, because I was not understanding what was going on, and I was out of control emotionally. I was completely emotionally dysregulated. Oh my God, your dog just did shit in here. Literally.
How is the...
I don't know, but it's only my room. He doesn't have...
opening your door needs to really fucking stop leaving it open. And my door. Like, how is he getting through two different barriers?
I don't know, but I think he needs to go outside. Do you need to go outside?
Well, probably not anymore.
Well, hey, Logan, your brother's streaming with me. Can you give me some doggy help here? He only does this in here. It's like he just needs to, I am his. He has decided I am his. This is my room. He doesn't have accidents anywhere in the house. He does this on purpose to mark a territory. Your dog's a narcissist. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably crypto. Probably does not like crypto.
So, okay, back to what we're talking about. So, I was under the attachment style. The attachment style can develop, for example, if minimally expressive infant shows distress and their caregiver is dismissive. Gee, I can't imagine subject A's mother ever being dismissive. Not that person. That's fucking funny. Anyways, early childhood environment.
Dad?
I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I honestly cannot speak. I spent many years talking with his mother and having deep conversations with her. I know absolutely nothing about his father, so never was really spoken about. I don't know. I just know, the one thing that I do know is not something I'm even willing to share. So, but experiencing rejection and being treated differently from others during childhood can contribute to the development of VPD. Oh, I think there's some sibling rivalry there that could have constituted that. So diagnosis and tests. How is avoidant personality disorder diagnosed? Personality continues to evolve throughout childhood and adolescent development. Because of this, healthcare providers don't typically diagnose someone with avoidant personality disorder until after the age of 18. Providers need evidence that these patterns of behavior are enduring and inflexible and don't fade with time. Personality disorders, including avoidant personality disorder, can be difficult to diagnose. This is because most people with one don't think there's a problem with their behavior or their way of thinking. This is so key in every form of struggling with mental health, guys. Okay, listen to me right now. If you are real quick to be like, that can't be me, you should probably stop, take a minute, and just allow yourself to detach from it and look at it objectively. It's hard to do because we don't ever like to look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I might be a shit for this reason. But if you really want to change the trajectory of your life and you really want to be happier and healthier, if life is feeling like it's a constant struggle, if your mentality is hard to maintain, if you can't regulate your emotions, if you feel like outside things affect you so much more than maybe they affect others, this would be key things that you should stop what you're doing. And if someone looks at you and says, I think you got a problem, you might want to be like, you know what? I think I do too. I just don't know what the fuck it is. And start on the track of figuring it out, because that's how you're going to become your best self. You know, that's how you're going to curb that miserable feeling of, you know, like even down to a lot of people. Now, depression can be clinically like a chemical imbalance in the brain. Okay. It can also be environmental, meaning that you have internalized things so much that you feel this way because so often we are feeling like we are misunderstood from the rest of the world. Why are we different? Why can't we act like everybody else thinks we should? Why? And it makes us feel inferior. When we feel inferior, we do more harm to ourselves with our own self-sabotage thinking than anybody else can do to us. The problem is, while we are in a weakened state and we are thinking this, people who may be actually wanting to be, you know, more, I can hear Parker if you want to tell him to quiet down. But
hey, Parker, you need to quiet down. We're streaming.
If you can, see, I lost my train of thought. He distracted me. This is attention deficit disorder. I have that, guys. And I had to go off my medication because it was allowing me to ignore my emotional trouble. So, which is going to change here. Oh, looks, it's just in this week. But anyhow, it was literally, my ADHD medicine was literally allowing me to not focus on the things I needed to fix. So I said, all right, we're going to go off of it. I'm going to let myself gain some weight and we're going to do the emotional shit. And I've been on a timer because I don't want to go too long.
I think I really need my medicine back again. Though, I will be honest.
Well, we have new insurance starting on the 1st, so we'll go get it taken care of. Anyways, moving along. So as I was saying, we were at how avoidant personality disorder is diagnosed. Difficult to diagnose because they don't believe their way of thinking. Okay, so when they do seek help, it's often due to conditions such as anxiety or depression from the problems created from their personality disorder, like isolation or lack of friends. Okay, because here's another thing. So a lot of times, now I haven't learned enough about covert narcissism, which is going to be the next thing I really need to dig into, because I imagine that avoidant behavior goes hand in hand with, as far as narcissists are concerned, not the generalized side of just narcissism, but covert narcissism, because there's malignant, covert, and 2 others. Okay, so if that's the case, all right, a narcissist would actually probably be more likely to, unless covert narcissism is different, to boast and put themselves in a center of attention, okay? Where somebody who has avoidant personality disorder is going to avoid that, okay? So when a mental health professional, such as a psychologist or psychiatrist, suspects someone might have avoidant personality disorder, they often ask broad, general questions that won't create an environment that the person might think of critical or embarrassing. Me sharing certain bits of information and saying certain things would definitely have probably been a source of embarrassment for subject A, especially since I've been doing the podcast. That was not my intent, okay? I was not looking out to tarnish him or embarrass him or attack him. Whoops, sorry, my microphone. Or attack him in any way, okay? This is why I can't have a webcam, Chad. I'd knock that thing all over the fucking place. Like, it'd be bouncing all around. I talk with my hands so much. Anyways, though, so if he were avoidant and not narcissistic, I once again was just like salt in the wound with my whole podcast. Would I have made different choices if this is true? I have no way of knowing if this is true, by the way. But let's say I did know it was true. I probably would have chosen to behave differently because I cared enough to. That's the thing. That's who I am. The person I am doesn't actually actively seek out wanting to hurt anyone ever. Okay? Yes? Okay. You wanted to interrupt my stream for that? Go to your room.
Uh-oh.
Just so you know, Brandon is using the controller to play Fortnite Festival. That's what I was just interrupted for.
Okay.
We'll deal with that later. Jinx, you owe me a Pepsi.
All right, well, not worth interrupting her side of the stream for. Could have come in the room. I have a mute button. Just saying. But all right, I will deal with it in a minute. We'll finish up stream and I'll deal with that because that's a problem.
Okay. Oh, is it? Okay. Well, let's deal with it as a family if you don't mind, because I have some things I would like to interject on this. Okay. I have some thoughts and opinions, so I'd like to healthily communicate them as you do what you. This is your area of everything. That is your thing. If it matters, I might have some opinions. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So we'll talk about it afterwards. Anyhow.
Editor Andromeda. Oh wait, you don't edit these anymore.
Well, now I'm gonna probably have to because
you, Editor Andromeda.
Here's the deal. Over on YouTube, I probably am gonna have to edit this stream because over on YouTube they want the information, and I've been distracted now 3 different times that will literally make people fucking click off of a video because they don't want to hear me ramble. Ugh.
Oh, we're sorry, Editor Andromeda.
Yeah. All right.
Except you're a nerd.
So what psychiatrists and psychologists will actually do, instead of asking like direct questions or whatever, they're going to try to ask questions that shed light on past history, relationships, work history, and reality testing. What is reality testing?
Yeah, what is reality
testing?
What is
reality testing?
Are we trying to figuring out if we're alive?
Hold up. Oh, wow. What is psychological?
Now we got distracted in a whole new way.
Psychological reality testing is the process of evaluating and distinguishing between one's internal experiences, thoughts, feelings, and fantasies, what they think of a situation, and the external objective of the world. It involves questioning your perceptions to see if the situation is truly for what it is, rather than what you hope or fear it might be.
Oh.
This cognitive skill is crucial for maintaining a healthy sense of self and can be impaired in conditions like psychosis, where a person's thoughts are disconnected from their objective reality.
That's interesting.
That is super interesting. A person suspected of having avoidant personality disorder may lack insight into their behaviors and thought patterns. Which, by the way, I definitely believe that. That's what I see. So you know how I said I took the approach where I started, here are healthy communication behaviors? Okay, and then I said, here's what is narcissistic discard. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If he is an avoidant and did not see it as that now becomes an attack, because I'm literally, it's one way and me seeing it another way, okay? Here's the deal.
Yeah.
We could challenge my reality in reality testing in this, okay? But looking from my perspective at the situation, I think we can see why I came up with narcissism and why I ended up. It took a long time. It took a lot of fucking help. It took a lot of professionals. Okay, like this was not just something I woke up and was like, he's a narcissist because he was a bad boyfriend. Okay, no.
Add the manipulator.
Woo. So, anyways, like that, I think I linked that in one of my. I linked Jaden Animation's Chad's a manipulator clip in one of my videos because it's a great sum up on understanding yourself and mental health. I love that video. So again, I'll probably link it in this one too because everybody should watch it. It's really good. But anyways, so my perception looking in, we can see why I would have come, especially considering these are so close. Okay. But also there is a huge chance that the reason why he thinks that I would be vengeful or attacking is because of a distorted sense of perception of the reality of who I am. Okay. So again, you can see why these things are bothering me. I am the type of person where if I have been hurtful Okay. I am willing to understand how when you are in any kind of relationship, there are two sides. Okay. I understand how, especially given this, if this is true, the way that when I was at my symptoms of my trauma response would have been the worst thing for him to experience. There's nothing he could have done to make me better, which would have made him feel even more inferior. Nothing he would have said would have worked because it wasn't going to be about that. The problem I have with it is, are avoidants incapable of learning to understand other people's behaviors or just their own? Because he didn't give two shits about why I was behaving the way I was or offering me any understanding to that either. Okay? And that's where, for me, I have had to learn that is an odd thing I do. Most people won't put in that much effort. They'll just walk away. Most people, I haven't been involved in Subject A's life since January, and I am still sitting here trying to learn about him because my healing has led me to this path. I have a need to be able to understand how somebody could treat me so fucking horribly that I've never been so soul crushed in my life. And I need to understand why anybody would be this kind of human being. Okay? That's what it boils down to. That's why I've done this research. But coming across this level of research, I do have care and compassion. I do understand that I do understand whether they were in my control or not, and whether or not I would have changed them. I could see how my behaviors and my actions would have caused great distress to him if this is what he was struggling with. What I don't understand, and maybe we'll find out as we keep going here, is how it would create such a volatile, nasty fucking thing back at me. But here's the truth. When we're not mentally healthy and sound, arguments and disagreements in intense relationships will navigate to basically throwing, like, they become tit for tat. He said, like, well, you did this. Well, you did that. Well, you did this. Well, you did that. And it's absolutely the most unproductive form of communication that can fucking exist. Okay? Hence why I made healthy communication styles. If you adjust yourself and start to learn how to communicate healthily and stop yourself in those moments where you feel like you're being attacked and you want to react with defensive mechanisms that, because you feel like you need to be protected, taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and trying to have a broader perspective to understand actually what is being said instead of assuming that person wanted to attack you. He lacked that ability. Everything that came out of my mouth when I wanted to talk about a feeling, a thought, or a behavior, it was an attack. But the thing, and here's the other thing, okay? I could see narcissism, they don't want you to fucking keep talking psychology because they don't want their secrets exposed. An avoidant would get stressed out by it. Okay? One is ignorance. One is stress reaction. Okay? Ignorance, like the side of narcissism is just evil and mean. The side of avoidant is sad. Okay? And that's, if I were a person who had contributed to somebody's mental health in a way where it was detrimental because I didn't understand how they were struggling, I'm sorry. It's my personal responsibility in my world to then understand it so I don't make those choices again. Okay? That's just how I'm built. That's who I am. I won't apologize for that. Okay? It has been how I navigate my whole life. I have had to change so much about myself in order for self-preservation, for healthiness, all of those things. Something I am not going to budge on because this is just ingrained into me is when I do care or have cared, I'm going to care enough to put in the work, to have at least a level of understanding, to truly be able to not necessarily change who I am to be the best person, but definitely not be a person that makes somebody's life worse. I don't feel like he was doing that. I feel like he went out of his way to make attack me and make my life worse and hurt me. I don't understand how anybody can carry something, can claim to love you, can claim that you're so important to them, can claim that they never can lose you, will then turn around and treat you so disgustingly. It does not make sense to me. With no apology, no accountability, and no recognition. Now, we all can say things and be some way in the heat of the moment where we say things we wish we wouldn't. Sometimes sorry isn't enough, right? But at least owning yourself and understanding that you maybe wish you would have acted differently or being sorry for how you've treated somebody, that's what empathy is. And I am a very empathetic person, okay? So just because the relationship is dead and gone, just because I have learned to move past it, okay, doesn't change the way I know I used to feel. And the way that I used to feel would very much have tried if the 17 years of friendship had been true, and if he was everything that I actually thought he was. I'm definitely somebody that if I had been met at least halfway, would have put in the effort to understand certain things had they been communicated. But the problem is you can't rely on an avoidant to communicate these things, because that is allowing themselves to become a level of emotional vulnerability that is dangerous to them. So they won't talk to you about it. They will just make assumptions, which he did over and over and over again. Now, I assumed with the whole discovery of narcissism that he was making those assumptions to benefit his own agenda and narrative, okay? What if he was making those assumptions and couldn't bring them up because it made him too vulnerable, because he felt too deeply about it? And avoidants will put a lot of pressure on themselves for how they believe they're supposed to act. So do narcissists, but narcissists will want to conquer it. People that are avoidant are going to self-internalize and do that woe is me thing that we fucking witnessed so many times. Now, the one thing you brought up, though, is that those woe is me moments were very you felt that they were calculated and precisional. You brought that up in another stream. That would be a key difference between now. So the idea in question that you were talking about that one night that we can't talk about because we can't say the G word, right? So that one situation, okay, where his behavior, and then I said, I'm not going to show up again. You know, if you do this, we are not going to set a precedence that this will make me come running. Okay. And next time the only thing that will show up is professionals that can help you, because it's not me, kind of thing. And then that behavior stopped immediately. Here's the thing. It could have been control, or it could have been because he couldn't handle his emotions because of where I was and what I was doing. And he was too emotionally invested and felt too vulnerable that it was a defense mechanism to make the behavior that was making him feel off stop. Does that make sense? And it worked in that regard.
Yeah, but
because I left what I was doing to make sure he was okay. Okay. So rather than be healthy and say to me, I was really...
Here's the problem with that, too, again, is, I mean, that could be true, but then he just didn't use the behavior against you the second time. Because remember, he did do it again, but it wasn't...
But if he felt like he was threatened, and that is what worked to get his wife off his back in what feels like a attacking bad situation, which getting caught in an affair would definitely probably make him feel that way, just saying, then that would be what he has learned to create his space to protect it so that he can take a minute, because he's got to avoid the problem. See?
Yeah, no, I don't think, no. I can see where that train of thought goes.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. When I finally, after telling his wife 2 times, I'm not coming over there. She was like, I want to leave and I can't trust him to be home. Fine, I'm coming over. When he walked down the stairs, he looked right at me and he smiled.
Well, that's a bit of information that you just, withheld.
It wasn't a full smile. It was a smirk, like, happy to see me, but what the fuck? How did you get over here? Why are you even here? Like a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, no. The problem with this situation, like that whole situation, is just like, it was like, I don't know exactly, but it was dumb.
Keep in mind that while this affair was going on, I had become aware of certain toxic traits that I didn't realize my ex-husband had, that had possibly been influencing my behavior. And more than one occasion, we were very much convinced that he and I were reacting to one another as we would have reacted to our spouses because of the way we had been treated by them. So we misjudged one another often and thought that the motives or the reasoning behind one another's actions was more of the nature of what we were used to in our marriages than what was, because yeah, I mean, like, emotional abuse is emotional abuse, okay? and it has its fucking
Mhm.
effect. So, that the possibility of, because of how our brains interpreted things, could have also been doing an internal damage on both sides of it. Okay? Just a thought. So here's the thing. One of the things, let's go on to the diagnostic criteria for avoidant personality disorder involve a persistent pattern of at least 4 of the following traits. So in order to be diagnosed with actual, and this is a really great article, by the way, chat, because like usually you have to get your hands on a DSM-5, read all this crap, and then you have to check off 4 of these things. So this may be the most important part of this stream, so listen up. You're dealing with somebody that you think is avoidant. They will have to reach at least 4 of these behaviors. 1, avoiding job-related activities that involve working with others because they fear others will criticize or reject them. 2, being unwilling to get involved with others unless they are sure others will like them. 3, being passive or reserved in close relationships because they fear ridicule or humiliation. 4, extreme worry about others criticizing or rejecting them in regular social situations. 5, around 5, right? Yep. Feeling self-conscious in new social situations because they feel inadequate. 6, assessing themselves as socially unskilled, unappealing, or inferior to others. And 7, being reluctant to take personal risks or try new activities because they feel they may be embarrassed. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. All I'm doing is putting this information right now out there. As far as this goes, I don't think that I paid enough attention to all of these things. I definitely think that, he outgrew being worried at work about being criticized. Because, I mean, that was something. But it may have been something in the beginning that he struggled with. I have no idea. I think this is way too big to even really delve into on the side of subject A. But here's the information. So if 4 of the things I just said is something you recognize in a relationship that you're in, this is something you should look into. You should definitely look into avoidant personality disorder, how it affects, and I've got we're going to keep going, and this is going to be a long stream and I might have to break it up because I'm going to talk about management and treatment, but I also have a guide for partners of people who are experiencing this, okay? So, moving along, the management and treatment for avoidant personality disorder. Treating personality disorders is difficult because people with these conditions have deep-rooted patterns of thinking and behavior that have existed for many years. However, people with avoidant personality disorder tend to be good candidates for treatment. Oh, that makes me, you know what? That actually makes me even more sad because that means he can get better and it'll be a choice he has to make if this is what he's struggling with. And that makes me sad because I don't think he'll make the choice. But it also makes me sad because then if everything that I did feel with him was real, well, it's gone now. I don't even know. And if he is avoidant, he'll never contact me. And out of proper respect and boundaries and my mental health being regulated, I'll never contact him. I'm not going to go out of my way to explain myself and be like, I may have been wrong. He was so keen on watching my streams in the beginning. If he's chosen not to and he's chosen to block me and do all the things he said, well, then do that, buddy. That's you. I'm not going to go chasing him down to be like, hey, I think you're struggling with something that makes you super sad and I want you to be happy. Not doing that shit anymore. People need to help themselves and he'd have to want to get better. Which ignoring me indicates he doesn't. Isn't willing to even look at it, okay? So, however, people with avoidant personality disorder tend to be good candidates for treatment because the condition causes them significant distress. Most people with AVPD want to develop relationships. The desire can be a motivating factor for people with AVPD to follow treatment plans, which will likely include psychotherapy and potentially medication. Treatment for people with this condition is most effective when family members are involved and supportive. Well, he's screwed now. There's no way that there's going to actually be genuine, at this point, after everything that's happened, a genuine love and support in his social circle has been decimated. There's so much work to do on that it's very unlikely that he'd be able to ever get around to actually helping himself in that kind of a fucking situation. Because bad behaviors are born in long relationships, and unless both people are willing to work to change them, they're not going to. Okay?
I'll be right back.
All right, I'm going to keep reading. Psychotherapy, talk therapy, this is a treatment, is a treatment of choice for personality disorders, which he said he never go to a therapist, so that's also a womp womp. The goal of treatment is to help uncover the motivations and fears associated with your thoughts and behavior. In addition, you can learn to relate to others more positively. See, chat, this is what I've talked about a lot. Everybody thinks that you go to the doctor and they're going to give you some medication or they're going to talk it out and they're going to shrink your head and you're going to walk away better. That is not how this works. Psychotherapy is you are going to meet a teacher who is going to give you an insight and teach you about yourself. That is the way you should look at it. They're not going to fix you. You have to fix you. But what they can do is shine some light on maybe why certain things. If you're honest enough with them to be like, I just feel so overwhelmed in this, and this situation, they're going to be like, well, this might be why. Have you thought about that? And then you're going to turn around and go like, gee, that might be. And now we're on a healing trajectory, okay? But it has to come from inside. The two specific types of psychotherapy that can help people with AVPD include psychodynamic therapy. This type of therapy focuses on the psychological roots of the emotional suffering. Through self-reflection, you look into problematic relationships and behavior patterns in your life. This helps you better understand yourself. It can help you change how you relate to other people and your environment. I mean, I can see why you have to have a safe environment to do this, because if you're in a toxic relationship, two people who are demonstrating toxic behaviors end up getting together, habits are formed. Neither one is going to feel safe enough at this point to grow and change unless they're doing it together. And even then, bad habits are hard to break. I can't tell you how many times I had to not lash out at my ex-husband when things would be hurtful or whatever, or not get that defensive or not feel attacked. It's not that I didn't feel attacked. I had to have emotional regulation of how I reacted to feeling attacked, okay? And had to learn healthy communication skills on how to convey that, okay? Instead of just reacting with defense and trying to annihilate the other person and make them feel shittier than they were making me feel, okay? That is not healthy, all right? So in order to do this, you have to really be able to, at least one person in a situation of a relationship in this manner is going to have to be well-grounded enough to be willing to adjust how they're reacting and have enough self-control to do so, okay? Which I now could have had, ironically, if I had known any of this, if this were true. I definitely guarantee that I could have done this. But I didn't understand what was happening to me psychologically because of his behaviors. And that's the real sad truth. Whether it's narcissism or it's AVPD, when you are in a relationship, the feelings you are going to feel as the partner to somebody struggling with this is going to be emotionally abusive either way, okay? Whether the difference is one is doing it to control you, one is doing it to protect themselves. Neither one is going to be good for you. And if the person won't change or recognize it, nothing is going to change, okay? Now, how you react to them can be in your control. And if you love somebody who's hurting you enough that you want to try to change that, you will notice that if you change your behaviors, they will start to let that guard down. But in this kind of a case where, me being friends with subject A for 17 years, if he were to do that, it's going to take years. It took me 28 years for the first trauma. That would have put me up to 2011, about, right? 20, well, no, actually, I would have been, 29. So, okay, so that brings me to 2011. From 2011 to 2023, I focused on my emotional regulation and understanding emotional control and all of that. And I actually went so overkill with it that I literally just never had an emotional reaction. So when I did, because I got struck with trauma, my ex-husband was literally, due to his Asperger's and the fact we didn't know he had trauma, literally was triggered, because my emotional response was almost like bringing back the beginning of our toxic marriage. In the very beginning, the behaviors were the same, because in the beginning, when we got together, I had trauma and was eliciting trauma responses. Everybody can have trauma at some point in their life. How they react to it is what a trauma response is. Behaviors, when you are stuck in a trauma response, behaviors they're almost habit forming. You end up back in a trauma brainscape. You are going to still exhibit, even if it's a different reason for getting trauma, even if we had gotten really, something had gone crazy, a car accident. It's not relationship related, crazy car accident, and something horrific comes out of it, okay? the response and how I processed the trauma, my behavior still would have mirrored what I have learned as my trauma response. Where my go-to is it is about self-preservation and trauma and about protecting yourself, okay? So me being stuck in a trauma response, if subject A really was suffering from something like avoidant personality disorder, I would have been the worst thing with the way that I was losing control. It would have caused him a great amount of distress. And if that's the case, well, I am sorry. And it's not for a lack of trying. It's not like I was not trying to get better. It's not, and I have, which makes me sad because now I know that my past self could have made different, would have been better at it. I know I would have. I know my present self moving forward, though, is all I have control over. So I will choose to recognize this in case, I ever meet somebody that is struggling, that I can show a good amount of empathy without self-sacrifice. Not going to any longer excuse people's actions and behaviors because they have a struggle. But I can be more empathetic, even if it still means walking away. Okay? I would never do anything to hurt somebody else on purpose. I've spent too much of my life hurting to do that. And if I inadvertently did that, well, I will, and I do feel badly about it. My problem will come from the fact that he has absolutely no care in the world how he's affected me. And he has made a choice to think the worst of me and to assume the worst of me without asking a single question. And even if that is part of a personality trait disorder he has, it is not acceptable for me. I cannot be involved with anybody that would actually think that my heart and soul could be as dark as he has anticipated it may be. And that makes me sick that anybody could even think that's how that just proves he didn't know me at all. He had no clue of who I was as a human being. And he absolutely thinks that I would go out of my way to make his life worse. Couldn't even see that even through my podcasts, even though he was offended, that my real cause of concern was, what if I could still help him, even though he won't talk to me, which is not a great approach, chat, by the way. But it offered a choice instead of me, Kool-Aid manning my way into a fucking situation. All right. And the choice was made. The choice was, fuck you, bitch. You are fucking evil and misguided and hurtful. And okay, if that's what you think my motive is, then you don't know me at all and don't deserve to be in my fucking life. Okay. Period. So go along. Go ahead. Block me. Do what you need to do. I'm not reaching out anymore because you don't deserve my energy in that manner. But this is about my past self. While I was in the throes of trauma, if my behavior inadvertently affected somebody in a way that I didn't understand at the time, I'm going to own that shit because that's who I am. So, cognitive behavioral training, go figure, is another treatment for AVPD. Structured, this is what I've done, guys. This is, if you don't know what CBT is, maybe we'll do a stream on it one time. I highly, highly suggest that you learn about it. It is about understanding your thoughts, how your thoughts affect your actions. Let's just read it. This is a structured, goal-oriented type of therapy. A therapist or psychologist helps you take a close look at your thoughts and emotions. You'll come to understand how your thoughts affect your actions. Through CBT, you can unlearn negative thoughts and behaviors. You'll learn to adopt healthier thinking patterns and habits. It may especially focus on developing social skills. This, for me, I didn't need social skills. What I needed is when I was socially interacting with people who were affecting me in a negative way, okay? I had to learn why I was affected that way and literally choose, okay, to think differently. It says you'll learn to adopt healthier thinking patterns and habits. No, you're going to train your brain to stop thinking negatively. You're going to train, and I did it so much in the middle throw of my secondary, we're on tertiary dose of trauma, chat, okay? On my secondary dose of trauma as I was healing, okay? This is the method that I learned, okay? In order to gain control of myself. I literally did it so much that I literally would make excuses for people's behavior that was hurtful or even just downright ugly, okay? I would have a greater understanding from where they were coming from, and I would choose not to look at things as though everybody was an aggressor, that everybody was on the attack, that everybody was that was actually trying to hurt me, and try to understand that they may not understand how they were behaving. And I took it to a whole level that when people did understand how they were behaving, I'd over communicate and try to fucking fix my behavior when really they just wanted like My ex-father-in-law is a perfect example. Whatever he could do to get that fucking reaction, whatever he could do to target me, whatever he could fucking do, that was the fucking goal. And when I didn't react that way, it literally made him crazy. That's because he's a narcissist. It literally made him crazy not to be able to get me to blow up the way he always told everybody I was a psycho for blowing up. He was so busy waiting for that other shoe to drop and pushing it to drop. And when it continually failed and I wouldn't even raise my voice, it just pissed him the fuck off because he wanted me out of the family still, because he wasn't going to change it. It was same goal, same motive. And I should have seen it better. But so here's the problem though. Instead, I made excuses for him. I made excuses to him to the kids he then turned around. It ended up costing him everything because he would turn around and talk about how awful I was. And I would turn around and tell the kids he has a reason to think that way. I was a really fucked up individual when I was 18 years old when, my ex-husband and I got together. We've been estranged for 20 years. He has no idea how I've grown and changed. His fucking fear and thoughts based on my past self are valid, and he just doesn't know better. No, he was targeting me. He was absolutely targeting me. But the thing is that because I had changed my way of thinking, the kids were like, they didn't buy it. They were pissed off at the way he was treating me because no matter how hard he pushed, I didn't do the shit talking spiel. I didn't turn around and call him a fucking asshole. I turned around and said, he's valid because I used to be an asshole. I internalized everything. So I took CBT. You can take it. You gotta take it, and don't ignore your self needs. Okay. People can have a good reason to act the way they act. And it can be maybe in your mind, excusable. Stop that shit. Don't excuse behaviors that hurt you. Never. Do not accept them either. You can learn to understand where people are coming from. But when it comes down to it, you have to know how to walk away because the only cause worth fighting for is yourself. And if they're not helping themselves and don't want to change, they are a lost cause. And no matter how much love you shower them with, no matter how much understanding you provide yourself with, you are not going to get somebody to change their behavior and see things differently. It is not going to happen unless they are willing to. And if they are not willing to, you are beating your head against a brick wall. And you will do it until you have absolutely freaking obliterated your skull. There will be nothing. You won't even know which way you're coming or going because you have tried everything and it will still feel, because people who don't want to change and don't want to grow simply will choose not to. Okay? So apparently can AVPD get therapy? Yeah. But always, like any form of psychotherapy, the only way it works is if you're going to be honest, truthful, and want to help yourself. You can't go in there and be like, blah, 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 all about how all the problems are your significant others, or all the problems are your kids, or all the problems are your parents, or all the problems. That is not how this works. You have to learn you can't control them. You can't control how all those people think. The only thing you can do is learn how to think differently so it doesn't affect you the same. And you have to be willing to do that. So apparently there's a medication. Oh, no, it says medication for AVPD. There's no medication that can treat personality disorders. Don't I know it? But there is medication for depression and anxiety, which people with avoidant personality disorder may have. So yeah, because the depression and the anxiety will overshadow that avoidant nature. So medication, I could see how medication could be very helpful. It'll lower your guard. And allow you not to take the things that you're taking so personally, or the things that you're taking as an attack. You're going to be more relaxed, so you're not in the hypervigilant state of mind where you are reacting. And this is just me spitballing because this is what I know. So I could see how that might be helpful. For the best results, however, you should take you should take medication in combination with psychotherapy. Okay, so what they want you to do is take your meds, go to your psychotherapy appointment so that you're not on the defense and you're willing to hear your psychotherapist analyze you and accept it and not be that's what I'm hearing here. The best treatment for this is to take something that calms you the fuck down and allows you to hear, because otherwise avoidance would be constantly in a state of fight or flight. They would constantly, unless they are in their own little space that they feel safe as their own, they are going to feel like anything could be a possible attack. Okay? Which that checks too in this case of subject A. So what is the prognosis with people, for people with avoidant personality disorder? The prognosis outlook for AVPD depends on if it's treated or not. Left untreated, AVPD, this is going to make me sad, I can already tell. Left untreated, AVPD may result in additional mental health conditions like depression, substance abuse disorder, and eating disorders, increased risk of postpartum depression, interesting, dissatisfaction with life, work difficulties, impaired social functioning. People with AVPD also experience higher rates of suicidal ideation and suicide attempts. I'm going to keep reading here, guys. If you or a loved one are thinking about suicide, dial 988 on your phone to reach the suicide crisis lifeline. Someone is available to help you 24/7. Again, if you are contemplating or thinking about suicide, dial 988 on your phone to reach the suicide and crisis lifeline. You can also text them. I checked that out, and I think I put it in one of my streams before, because during the worst of my trauma, after life happened and everything blew up, and it was so, like, that was the tragic trauma onset coupled with everything. Here is the one thing that I know, okay? The moments, suicidal ideation, which is the thought of self-harm, is one of the darkest, hardest things. I'm not even sure people can pull themselves out of. They pray to survive it in that moment. And if it gets heavy and whatever, 988 on your phone. Your story is worth continuing to live. Okay. It is, this is something, and September is actually Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I have a whole new outlook on this. I don't want to get too deep into it right now. Maybe that'll be a separate stream, and maybe we'll do it in September, because this is something that I now have had close enough experience with, that to know how far out of my character, how dark and how far I had fallen, because this is not something I've struggled with my whole entire life. But in the midst of the worst moments of my mental illness, I did. And when I did, I cannot even, there are no words. There are no words to describe the hopelessness, the darkness, the just, you want to quit. But don't quit, guys. Don't do it. I have come so far in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I was laying on my bathroom floor and my whole family worrying if I was going to wake up the next morning. Okay? To where I am right now, it is work. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, just get over it. I'm not going to say that shit. But if you are getting to that point where this shit is rolling around in your head, please, 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 please do what you need to do to get help. Okay? It's gonna be the hardest thing you've ever done, because this is a taboo topic that people don't like to talk about, but you are worth it. You are worth loving, even if you have to love yourself, and that's where you start. Okay? Like, you are worth loving. And if you don't feel it from everybody else, they don't matter. But the real thing comes down to, even in those moments, that you need to learn what is worth living for and what is worth loving about yourself. Because it's almost like demons infiltrate your brain and they steal every ounce of happiness. And you are left with just exhaustion. And just not wanting to be a problem for people anymore, not wanting to, be a problem for yourself anymore, not wanting to deal with just life can be so overwhelming. And the thing is that life will be different tomorrow, but it's so hard to see in that moment. And the fear of that life is going to be the same tomorrow is one of the darkest things as well. And when you are struggling with these kind of things, you are going in a ruminating sense of that you are diminishing your self-worth every moment. And it is hard to have that anyway. So if you're struggling in these areas, I'm going to say it one more time, guys. You can text or call 988 on your phone for help. Okay? Please do it if you are struggling with this kind of stuff. All right? Moving along, treatment for an avoidant personality disorder is a long process. Your willingness to seek and stay with treatment can have a significant effect on your outlook. With treatment, some people with AVPD can learn to relate to others more healthily. No matter what you're dealing with, whether you have a personality disorder or just life struggles, trauma, things, whatever, okay? Here's the deal, all right? It is a long process. You have to be willing to find your form of treatment, which is going to be different for everybody. Here's the thing. Not everybody is going to be able to walk right into a therapist's office and do talk therapy. I'm a talker, so that works for me. Okay. But there are support groups. And now since COVID, there are so many ways for you to get mental health where you don't even have to show your face. So you can remain, because a lot of people have that problem. Going in to sit in front of somebody, you feel judged, you feel looked down upon, you feel broken, you feel all these things. You don't want somebody looking at you and telling you how you are all those things. Okay. So there are chat rooms, there are groups, you got to find your way on to at least start the journey to get better. What works for you? I'll tell you this, ignoring it, avoiding it, and just fucking cutting people out of your life that might fucking actually have a point that you might be struggling with something, that's not going to get you better. It's going to keep you right where you are. So here's what I say. Ask yourself this. Are you truly, truly happy in life right now? Do you feel legitimate joy in small moments? Do you allow yourself to smile in times of stress? And not every kind of stress, but are you overall, do you consider things that surround you way more negative? Or are you able to see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel every time? Okay? Because if you're feeling like you're in so much darkness, you need help. We all do. Everybody needs help sometime. How you find it is going to be up to you. Okay? But once you start on that journey, continue to grow with it is how you will heal and get better. And first chance, I've been in therapy since I was 4, as I've talked about. Okay, guys, I just turned 43. All right? 43 years old. I have spent more life in therapy than probably in relationships. Okay? But that's because based on what I had experienced as a child and based on my life, I was going to need a little help to make sure that I stayed on track. And I knew that. So I got that. I went through periods of time where it was just online support groups. I remember Circle of Moms. I used to do that. But I have actively sought support in some way, working to self-improve at every step that I have ever taken. And that's what you have to be willing to do. And self-improvement can be so fucking frightening because it literally means looking in the mirror and being like, yep, I'm a shit in this way. This is a pretty shitty thing. I've been a shitty thing here like that. I've been a shitty person like this for a long time. I didn't even know I was being a shitty person. How am I going to not be a shitty person? How do I stop that? Because you're going to feel like a shitty person when you look at how your behaviors, no matter what you've done, have affected other people. It's going to feel like shit. Okay? But that's the beginning. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, no matter what you are recovering from in life. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back is the always idea. You're going to have days that feel like everything has just been blown to smithereens and all of your progress feels shot right out the window. Don't quit. Keep keeping on, because now 3 more steps forward, you're going to slide again. We always do. But the idea is always, always seeking a goal of staying 1 step ahead. Okay? So, the last part of this is, can avoidant personality disorder be prevented? You can't prevent avoidant personality disorder, but treatment can help lessen the issues it causes. Seeking help as soon as symptoms appear can decrease the disruption to the person's life, family, and friendships. So a note from the Cleveland Clinic. It's important to remember that avoidant personality disorder is a mental health condition. As with all mental health conditions, seeking help as soon as symptoms appear can help decrease the disruptions to your life. Mental health professionals can offer treatment plans that help you manage your thoughts and behaviors. The loved ones of people with AVPD often experience stress, depression, and isolation. It's important to take care of your mental health and seek help if you are experiencing these symptoms. All right. So I know this has already been a very long stream, but this is something that is super. We're already at 2 hours. I'm going to definitely be having to cut this one up. So what we're going to do for a quick second here, chat, all right, is we're going to just break up the monotony for a minute here, all this, and because what I'm going to talk about next is how it actually affects, how it may affect relationships. But let's do this real quick. Reflection, because I'll probably chop this into 2 different videos. So this one would be the video that is all about understanding the overview of avoidant personality disorder. It's what it is, how common it is, who's affected, what are the symptoms, the causes, the diagnostics and tests, and the management and treatment. So I'm going to include this link in the description of the YouTube video that goes up so that you can read it yourself. All right. And then, and maybe, and I'll add it to the Avoidant Narcissist playlist. All right. So the second part will definitely be a guide for partners of people dealing with this. But first, so IG, we've talked a lot and you've heard all of this. I would really like, regarding subject A, give me a reflection.
Let
me ask, are you questioning right now if it's narcissism?
No.
Or you're not? Okay, why are you not hearing this? And because we know that I would want nothing more than to believe that subject A is not a narcissist and that he did not want to just obliterate my soul on purpose. We know that that's what I want to believe. I am completely biased here. I may be looking for things because even if I can't go back, I would very much like to go forward thinking that it was just a big misunderstanding and at least he didn't want to fucking kill my heart. Because as a narcissist, he wanted to kill my heart. And that hurts a hell of a lot more. So I've gotten to a point in this where it doesn't really matter either way. This would definitely offer me a certain level of solace. But what makes you say, nah, it's still narcissism?
Well, because I feel like I've already kind of explained why behaviors and things were very tactical, very planned, obviously, and just
Can you see why I would also think this fits, though?
I guess you could make an argument for it, but I don't feel like it's...
Do you think he was intentionally trying to hurt our family?
That's a hard one, because I don't know if I'd call it in the beginning intentionally. I think he was trying to get what he wanted. And when it became too hard, he didn't care. I don't think it's about being intentional about trying to hurt. I think it's just not caring. He just wanted what he wanted, and he didn't care how it affected others. And then when he didn't get what he wanted, he acted out. Which, based on what an avoidant sounds like, he wouldn't have acted out. Sounds like to me an avoidant would have taken the money and just stopped right there when you did that. But no, he got angry. Why would an avoidant get angry about that?
That's a really great question. And it is a proven fact that narcissists use gifts and money to make their victims feel like they owe the narcissist something, making it less likely that they will walk away.
Yeah, and at his, what I'd say is his most unstable when we were in the hotel, he literally basically said that. He's like, you can't stop talking to me because you owe me money. And then you paid him. And then he absolutely freaked the fuck out. Just completely. Just freaked out. So I wouldn't say in the terms of the whole thing that he intentionally was trying to, I don't think he saw us and his thought process was, oh, I'm gonna hurt them and I'm gonna fuck them up and blah 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 blah. I think he wanted something. He tried to get it, and the moment it became too much work.
Okay, can we just say what are we just saying that he only wanted intimate access to me because I'm a fucking tilt-a-whirl? Let's just be real.
Yeah.
Real and really?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of shit that he did that just doesn't if he was an avoidant.
Okay, you want to know what? You want to know why I probably, if I'm going to be God honest right now, just come straight out with this. One of the reasons why I really want to believe this too is this would explain why he didn't hold up his promise in regards to maintaining relationships with children.
Yeah, no, it was no.
That would be Yeah, I really think you're right. Actually,
except for anything about himself. By the way, you'll notice if he was an avoidant and whatnot, he would specifically avoid problems that were outside of his, like, he would avoid all problems, wouldn't he? But he didn't care what would happen to, like, this person or
Well,
that person. But the moment
technically, he would become.
but the second it started negatively affecting him, then he'd have some problem.
Well, this is a really great question. And you know what? This could be an actual, I think I'd have to talk to a professional about this, because I think we are getting into a point
Probably.
where it is so small that, like, what it actually, because here's the deal. An avoidant
Not right now.
would want to avoid the conflict that would have come when the segregation of the children came down, okay? Even though he promised me that would never be a thing, an avoidant would not want to take on the conflict. Then when he tried to, I was like, she took complete control of it and was like, the things that I was looking forward to doing with his kids, she was like, they can go over there, but they're not doing these very specific stupid things like hair and nails. Okay? So this is why I'm now at this point where, yeah, definitely she's got narcissism. I'm not even fucking, I don't
Yeah.
have to be a psychiatrist
Also,
anymore. I mean, fuck
I
that
feel
shit.
like
She's evil.
yeah. Also, though, if you want to examine his reaction to that situation, is very telling too, because he originally got, like, it was like a band-aid on a bleeding wound, and he thought that would be good enough.
And I looked at it and said, this is not healthy behavior. So despite the fact that I would have really loved, because I love those children, despite that fact, I was like, nope, I will not agree to that. Because
I
let my kids go over to his house and I didn't turn around and tell y'all you can go over there, but don't, do this and don't do that. You know what I mean? Y'all are the ones that made the decision. You were uncomfortable there.
Yeah, but no, if you look
and
at the
she
situation,
made you uncomfortable, not him.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you look at the situation, you'll also notice that he just didn't care. Like, he tried to fix it.
Did he not care, or did he avoid it on a... Or did he avoid it on an emotion?
No, he didn't care. He didn't care. Because, okay, if he was an avoidant, he wouldn't want to have to deal with the situation at all. But he tried to deal with the situation just enough to get brownie points. And then when you didn't like his outcome,
he just
gave up. Because it didn't matter. He didn't care. That's where that, like, not caring, because it's not affecting him, if you think about it.
Did he not care because he didn't understand how
he didn't care because it doesn't affect him? It doesn't matter anything else, because he didn't care because it doesn't affect him at all. He still was allowed to come over to the house, wasn't he? The kids coming over didn't matter at all because it doesn't affect him in any way, shape, or form.
Actually, the kids not coming to my house would have been better for him.
Easier for him, yes. So he tried to do it just out of a positive brownie move to try to get more control over you. If you think about it.
I also said something needed to change, or I was going to change something, because I was like, the way this is going, I was like, you don't even tell her that, like, you promised me that the kids weren't going to be affected, but I've been completely cut out of your children's life because of this. And although I understand why that was her reaction, because she's evil, but here's the deal. I understand. She didn't care how she affected her kids. She didn't care the positivity I brought to her children's life. Just because I had made a bad choice, they were still affected, because that's not healthy behavior, okay? It was out of it was out of anger, and it was however she could hurt the situation, which is why she came up with they can go over there, but they can't do this and this, because that was an extra hurtful thing towards me. He told me literally, though, he was like, I think that's more towards me because I never used to, like, let those things happen. Like, because he was talking about...
I wouldn't even say that.
But that was his perception.
But you see how he tries to, like, almost blame shift onto him, like making the situation about him. Do you notice that too?
No, I did not. I do now. I see it.
If you look back at that situation and you read it, like, with a 2020 hindsight, and you really think about it in a logical format, what his wife actually handled it better than he did, if you really want to look at it. Because if you logically think about it, what had happened to even allow...
I was a threat. I was a threat. I was a threat to her family.
Be involved.
Yep.
I feel like having some pretenses, even if that was unfair to the children, having pretenses is understandable to even let there be a solution in the first place to a problem like that.
But see, that's where I think
And
she was taking control. Now it was in her control, which is what a narcissist would do. Oh,
Yes,
you're not going to
but
do anything
still-
unless I keep it in my control.
Yes, but still, in a logical format, with everything that happened, I mean, it would be entitled to think that you have any other say over it. Not
Yeah.
accepting it on your own terms is completely fine. But to think that, I feel like thinking that it was outrageous of her to say to give those stipulations is an entitled thought process, in my opinion. I feel like in life, when you look at unhealthy individuals and you can take the time to find logical, like, even if a person does something for an unhealthy reason, but you find the reason to have like an understanding for it in a certain capacity, can make you a better person in the end of the day.
Make you look like a better person, can make you look like a better person, like you're doing something and they're going to owe you.
Or, well, no, I mean like in your own self-reflection. Like you can look at an unhealthy individual, see what they're doing, and you can use it as a tool to make yourself better. Like,
yeah. Let people teach you what you don't want to be.
If you took that, think about it. If you take the stipulations were unfair to the children. It hurts the children.
Yeah. Okay.
But the fact
first
that
of all,
there are stipulations isn't a problem.
The stipulation wasn't like be supervised, which I would have been willing to go and see those children through freaking plate glass. The stipulation was you can't do hair and nails, even though you've done that with all my children.
Yes, and that is an unhealthy and hurtful way of handling it. I just want to also
she had, you know
argument.
what? She had just come through some shit and had a reason to be hurt and unhealthy in that particular instance. Now, whether she's, I believe she's been unhealthy for a very long time because I think these are bad habits and bad behaviors, and that's just my fucking opinion. But in the real, she's kind of reeling. She had just suffered a fucking trauma.
Yeah.
Somebody that she considered to be her friend and her husband. She had a reason to react in the way she did. I could see. I'm just stating that there was also no care of how it affected the children.
I want to also make it a point here. Trauma or outlashes in any way are just unacceptable behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. We're not toddlers. If you outlash in any kind of way, it's unacceptable. And making an excuse for it is more
unacceptable. Because part of trauma is losing your emotional regulation. You literally lose the ability to control yourself that way. But here's the difference. After you've lost control, you are aware you have lost control.
Afterwards?
And what are you going to do to change it so you don't lose control again? That is what fucking matters.
I want to take a step here because you probably would not have this outlook on it. But there's a lot of people who might be watching these streams trying to, like, not every person who's in a trauma effect is looking for self-help. It's really hard to do that. I mean, I think you could agree. Even though you did it, it's hard to look for self-help. So sometimes people who I feel like would watch the stream aren't actually trauma people looking through outlets to get through it, but maybe someone who's, experienced around people who have trauma and are looking for ways to help in ways. So my message to those people would be, what someone with trauma or a traumatizing effect or whatnot, if like they're outlashing and whatnot, that's unacceptable. And you don't have to accept it in any way, shape, or form.
It doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to,
put up
be
with
okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do
It's
that.
okay to walk away and
like
protect
a
your
lot
peace.
of people, well, that's okay. But I also would argue that seeing how, like, there's some people, like, for me, it's like my mom in that situation. Someone who I really care about you. And there's a lot that you've done in, our lifetime that not only earned my respect, but you've taken care of me. Like, what happens if you're dealing with that kind of family member? Like,
well, you mean like you were
to walk away? Yeah. While you can walk away, how does that make you feel as a person? Like, even if walking away would make you, like, I could have walked away from you while you were in a trauma effect, yelling and screaming at me and throwing routers at me and calling me the most disappointment person in the world. And I could have walked away to make myself feel better in that moment.
Yeah.
But if I look back on it, I would have felt guilty for just abandoning too.
All right, but
So
that
I
is
feel
not,
like-
hold on, time out. Time out. That is true. You may have felt guilty, but why? Let me have my fit. Let you live your best self. Not even as your mother is it okay for you to sacrifice your peace or your state of emotional well-being just because I can't handle my shit. Your mother or not, no matter what I have done for you in your life, you are worthy enough in that moment to say, hey, knock it the fuck off. Okay. And there's a difference between giving ultimatums and saying, like you did to me, you know what? I think you're right. I can't help you anymore. And I'm sorry that I can't, but obviously I just can't. And it was the most wake up call I ever had for you to just say that to me, for one. But not everybody may react that way because they have lost all sense of emotional regulation. Okay. So, but there comes a point. Here's my thought process on it and why I think you didn't walk away. Because yes, guilt, but that should not. Guilty for what? What did you do?
I mean, I didn't do anything.
Why was it your responsibility to take care of me? Just because I took care of you? Well, then what the fuck was I doing taking care of you? Because you had never taken care of me when you were incapable of it as a child. That's my job as your mother. So let me put it to you this way. There reaches a point, and in that moment when that happened, okay, you had actively seen me struggling, and you knew what kind of forces existed that were keeping me from doing a full 3 steps forward and not 4 steps back. But I was in a state of where there was a cycle starting to happen, okay? And when the cycles start to happen and the growing stops, there is nothing you can do anymore. And that is what you saw. You made me question how I was allowing people to fucking affect my life. You made me question how I was allowing myself to react to it and how my reactions were then spilling out onto the people who had been there and shown up for me the most, such as you, your brothers, and your cousin. All right? And I love you all. And so I put in double time to get better even more. All right? Now here's where the real key lies in everything. If there is no change, there is no improvement, then there is nothing that you can't feel guilty from walking away from somebody who won't help themselves. Okay? And if I had continued to be as toxic as I was behaving in those moments of my trauma response meltdowns, that it was affecting your mental health to the extent that I believe it was. And I think I actually have a hindsight vision of how much worse it was than even you kids don't imagine. Hence why get my own ass better so I can help guide you down and help you heal from even the things that I have caused. Okay? Because I have not been the perfect mother and I have not been always 100%. Okay? And I did struggle and I had problems. But look at where I'm at now.
Yeah. That's where I was gonna get around to it, is like, how does like the relationship end in those kind of situations? Like, you didn't act in that outlash way, and then, you know, I mean,
excuse
you got
it.
better,
Tell you, I just have trauma. Get over it.
Yeah, exactly. And
no,
whatnot.
I did not.
And I feel like that should be like
the first part of my
like,
healing. The first part of my healing journey. You heard me say it often, so I'll say it again. Just because I was mentally ill does not mean that my actions did not and my behaviors did not affect those that I love and care about. Would I have knowingly made a choice to make people feel the way that they were feeling due to those actions and behaviors? Absolutely not, but I was out of control. All right? And I was sick, and I use the word sick, and I get that not everybody could see it, okay? But the only way I was going to get better is to get better myself, to do the hard shit. And some of that hard shit literally meant calling the police on myself and putting myself in a psych ward so I could get better. Do you know how scary that whole process was? You have to want it. You have to be willing to do what is necessary to actually improve yourself. And if you don't see actions and behaviors that are actively working towards trying to improve, not be better for another person, not treat that other, but to change inside so that you are having more control, so you are capable and affordable of making the choice not to hurt somebody instead of losing your emotional composure and screaming and having fits, okay? Yes, Trauma caused me to lose my emotional composure. I said very hurtful, nasty things. I had very hurtful behaviors. How those, just because I would have chosen differently does not change the fact that it happened in that moment and the people were affected the way that they were by my actions and my choices and my behaviors. Now that I am on the other side of it and I am well, I will not excuse that behavior because that behavior had an effect. The only thing I can even do, I can't even make you forgive me. I can't even make you get better from it. I could have scarred you for life for all I know right now. But the only thing that I can do and that is in my control 100% is make damn sure I stay healthy enough so that I don't inflict any more of that bullshit on you. And I would say, this is why I think it really did rub me the wrong way when Subject A texted me and said, you haven't changed at all. Bullshit. Cap. Because I have, to a degree, where I now have regained enough of my emotional composure that I won't lash out to hurt somebody, even in a trauma. Like, I'm not traumatized. I'm not trauma responding anymore, okay? I'm going to have CPTSD that is going to affect my relationships going forward for the rest of my life. I have to learn how to control that shit before I even embark. That is irresponsible. It's like, okay, look, okay, we can't say the G word. It's like, but this is like a safety thing, okay? I'm not only self-preservation, but for the safety of others. Until I have it know that my mental health has become a more habitual, stable thing in my life, I'm not inviting new people in because I'm gonna be shell shocked in a way. I'm gonna be like, other people's behaviors might still be able to have an effect on me. Where if I kind of isolate myself for a while and just really focus on the closest relationships in my life and learning how, your dad is a great example. Having conversations, really tough conversations with him right now. Being able to say things to him like, okay, that hurts my feelings, but I hear you. I hear you. And I can appreciate and understand your perspective and how this has made you feel. It does hurt my feelings that this is what you think and feel. Here's why. Now, how are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again? And having that conversation. That is conversations that in my 24 years of being married to your father, we never had. Okay? So this is the thing. This is where your dad is stepping out of his comfort zone because he would rather not be emotionally vulnerable. He is sharing how things I have done have truly made him feel, how things our family has done has actually made him feel over the years that he never told us. And we are dealing with it in a way where even when it's hurtful and upsetting, it's not a fight. It's a conversation. And that is a great sign of healing. Because once you start to get to a point where you can do that, when you are so emotionally invested and supercharged into something, and it might be, there's a possibility that why it's possible for me is because I have become so emotionally, distant with him because of his actions and behaviors over the last 2 years. But now would be the thing is I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, he's exhibiting, he's doing healthy things. He's communicating healthily. He's sharing things with me. He's giving me a chance to have that reaction. He's giving me that chance to give me at least a chance to not obliterate your safe zone, to have respect for you, to hear you. And he's giving me that chance. And what I'm doing with it, the irony of it is, that is why we're now starting to grow closer. That's why I'm starting to miss him and talk to him more and want to be on the phone with him and do all of those things. Because we are growing closer emotionally because we are capable of doing this. But this has not been a capability in the 24 years of my marriage. This was not something we were able to do. Okay?